The frozen ground and piercing squall winds became their trap. And it all began with the endless polar night, which lasts for 6 months. In the midst of one of their most terrifying ordeals, they looked into the eyes of the devil. There are very few of them left. The rest have turned into monsters. You had to be on your guard and not let yourself get bitten. Lena knows that David is a good person, but he is good to everyone, and she never once felt special during the entire time they were together, as if she was not his girlfriend. She was tired of being in a relationship and still being alone. Just at the moment of clarifying the relationship, David received a call from the unit. He's not on duty today, but the situation is urgent. David asked me to give him his address and take his uniform. He apologized. He had to go. An urgent call. Lena might leave him a little later. David rode his motorcycle. He stopped in front of the fire trucks that had arrived to take him to the call. The cause of the fire has not been determined. It is currently dry and there is a strong wind. The slightest mistake and the fire could spread to neighboring buildings, which is why reinforcements were called. Almost all residents have been evacuated. About 10 people are stuck on the top floor. Other firefighters have already gone there, but they do not have enough strength. The firefighters arrived. Some idiot parked illegally, and his car blocked the access to the burning building. It was impossible to contact the owner of the car. It was necessary to go around. But they have 5 cars. There is no time for this. Every second counts. This is a light car, practically plastic. We need to get her off the road to hell. The fire truck driver was against it, but David pulled him out of the cab. Don't go crazy, they'll get fired. But it's 100 times better than letting people burn alive. David got behind the wheel and stepped on the gas. He swept the car out of the way. The people in the room engulfed in flames were still alive, but could have died in a matter of seconds. The woman prayed to God to save at least the child. David arrived just in time. He asked if anyone was alive. It's a firefighter. They're saved. When it got dark, smoke was still coming out of the building. David was lying on the ground. His phone rang. It was Lena. David asked where they had left off. She just wanted to say that she was leaving him. That was expected. It started snowing, and David wasn't happy about it. And if it weren't for the date, the fire would have been put out earlier. 3 days later, David was asked to explain the incident with the car. If they had gone around, they would have lost precious time. But nothing stopped them from breaking the glass, releasing the handbrake and simply pushing. They would have wasted an extra 2 minutes, which could have cost lives. And besides, nothing would have happened if the car had not been parked in the wrong place. No one died precisely because they arrived in time. This is commendable, but the owner of the car does not think so. He is demanding the dismissal of David and compensation for damages, citing abuse of power, his father, the owner of the newspaper K. The press is already blaring the news, and the firefighters are not being portrayed in the best light. David's boss is a firefighter like him and believes he did a 100% job. But when it comes to bureaucracy, problems begin. Unfortunately, Norman does not have enough power to cover for David. He will have to go to Antarctica. He may know that there is a joint research base there between Korea, China, and Japan. David heard something like that on the news. Norman asked the Disaster Management Agency to dispatch security personnel for the winter period and recommended David to them. Once the Antarctic winter begins, no ship or plane can get there. The sea freezes solid, and snowstorms 24/7. The base needs security personnel, but there are no trusted people. Norman can't fire David. It's stupid to waste valuable resources. If he leaves, they'll be able to find time to appeal the lawsuit, and by the time he returns, the fuss will have died down. David is a military man, having served as a non-commissioned officer in the Korean Air Force for 8 years. He then worked in the Seoul Fire Department for about 3 years. This is where his track record ends. If they trust him with a job, he will give it his all. Here, everyone gives their all, working like 3. The base employs staff from 3 countries, Korea, China, and Japan. So to minimize confusion during communication, everyone speaks English, and David needed to know this when submitting his application. He knew he speaks English at a basic level, but he never worked abroad, took language courses, or received a certificate. He had to cooperate with foreigners. According to his resume, David joined the military immediately after graduating from high school and became a firefighter after leaving. He cannot say when he collaborated with foreigners. David apologized. He had nothing to apologize for. He could have worked in Itaewon, a district of Seoul that is 90% foreign. David was asked if he considered himself qualified enough. He answered in the affirmative. His look speaks volumes, but his track record is too meager. They still have many applications from candidates with advanced degrees, including former firefighters. The phone rang. He is a major general in the Korean Air Force. The head of the National Security Service said that they had no common business with the military and asked what he needed. The major general had heard that a selection of candidates was being conducted for a mission to Antarctica. Firefighter David Chain will be among the candidates. We finished with him a minute ago. The Major General would like to say a few words about him. Apparently, he wants to promote his own. But this is not the Ministry of Defense. It has no right to interfere in fire safety matters. He has no intention of interfering. For the sake of a fair selection, he wants to tell the truth about David, which he himself will never tell. Before his retirement, he participated in many domestic and international operations as part of the Korean Air Force Search and Rescue Squadron. Most of these operations were classified. During one of the operations, an enemy appeared behind David. David stopped him. He saw his comrade sitting on the ground. He had a broken leg. David gave him first aid. He asked when reinforcements would arrive, but they were not going to send any. They were supposed to leave alone. Enemy speech was heard behind them. David started shooting. After all, they are recruiting the best for the mission to Antarctica. The Major General stakes his epaulets on the fact that David Cheney is the best in the country. They were safe. David defeated the enemies. He is the best in both saving and destroying. Temperatures are expected to rise in the coming days. And on the other side of the world, in Antarctica, winter is approaching, known for its polar night, which lasts just under 6 months. During this period, temperatures reach -50, but there are people who go there despite the extreme weather conditions. Today, at a press conference, it was announced that an expedition will be sent to a research base in Antarctica. 25 Korean representatives are determined and ready to make every effort to fulfill the mission and represent their country with dignity. Representatives from Korea, China, and Japan work at the base. The management changes every year. This year it was China's turn. Antarctica is a treasure trove of meteorites. Geological science Dr. Kim Yoon wants to contribute to the development of geology by studying new meteorites. They plan to stay at the base for 6 months to a year to conduct various studies and experiments. They leave in 3 days. A Hansung Airlines passenger plane is flying from Incheon to Punta Arenas. David's seatmate turned out to be Kim Yoon, who was heading to Antarctica for the second time as a graduate student. He had been lucky enough to visit King George Island. This is the second time, and Kim is more excited than the first time. Then they went in the summer, and sometimes it was warmer than in Seoul. This is not the weather you expect from Antarctica. If it is too warm, it is disappointing. Antarctic winter, the coldest season on the coldest continent on Earth, makes my heart flutter at the thought. Of course, it's cold at the North Pole too, but the lowest temperature ever recorded wasn't in the Arctic. It's -93 degrees. The lowest temperature in the Arctic was -74. The difference is so big because the South Pole is on the continent, and the North Pole is in the sea. At first glance, it may seem like it is land because everything is covered with ice, but in fact, it is the sea. The question arises as to why it is colder on the continent than in the sea. It seems like it will take them a day to fly. Kim has already said that Antarctica is a treasure trove of meteorites. Of all meteorites found, about 80% were found in Antarctica. It's completely covered in snow, and the black meteorites are easier to see against the white background. But what's more important is the glacier. David must have heard that glaciers move, and as they move, meteorites accumulate in certain places. A little more and David will kill him. The plane lands at the port of Punta Arenas. The good news is, they were lucky with the weather, so the Chilean military aircraft will deliver them to the base. In bad weather, they would have to sail on a ship. There is a little time before takeoff. Everyone is free. David asked the expedition leader to change his place. Soon they arrived in Antarctica. Expedition leader Larry Fox asked if the Koreans had just arrived. We need to greet the new arrivals and gather everyone at the entrance, except for those who have urgent business. The summer team left early. Now only their winter brigade is here. So far, only the Korean group has arrived. The Japanese will join tomorrow if the weather is good. The day is still divided into day and night, but the day is ridiculously short. Winter is already approaching, and it will soon be dark. Tomorrow, when the Japanese arrive, they will give a tour of the base. This is Captain Kevin Lee. Several years ago, this man went into space. He is an astronaut. He is also a well-known explorer in China, having visited 5 oceans and 6 continents. Eventually, he went into space. Exploring the Earth and traveling in space are not the same thing, but that makes it even more amazing. He was chosen for his abilities, which are head and shoulders above those of other scientists and pilots in the Air Force. In China, he is a national hero, a living legend. Coming here as a captain is probably also quite symbolic. It may sound harsh, but Bill doesn't like him. It is inspiring to be under the leadership of such a great man. Luckily, Kim found free ears. Someone greeted David in Korean. It was cosmologist Malin Green. She likes dramas, so she knows a little Korean, but she speaks it poorly. She asked David what his name was. He didn't answer. Malin wants to be friendly. David told her to take the luggage. Malin didn't understand Korean well. Then David switched to English. He wanted her to stop talking and move. The incessant chatter all the way almost drove him crazy. Malin didn't understand English well either, so she had to speak slowly. She does not do physical labor. She is the daughter of the head of the Hwanho group, the main sponsor of this base. She is not a participant in the expedition, but a respected guest. It doesn't concern David, Van said it would. Malin asked what he said. Wong replied that he told her about her father, and David expressed his respect. Malin doubted it, but Van assured that this was indeed the case. Then Malin thanked David. The wind is cold, it's better to go inside. There's more to come. In the morning, someone contacted the base. It was a Japanese team. They found themselves in an emergency situation and asked for help. All units, except those on duty, must assemble at the entrance within 3 minutes. The Japanese group that was heading to the base encountered an emergency. They were supposed to arrive on a Chilean military plane, but due to weather conditions, they had to land at McMurdo, 300 kilometers from here. But on the way to the base, they got caught in a snowstorm. The details still need to be clarified, but apparently the situation is not the best. Since they turned to them for help, it means their transport was damaged. They could have been buried in an avalanche, or in the worst case, they could have fallen off a cliff or into a crevasse. It's about 30 kilometers from here to them. People need to be rescued as quickly as possible. They will need snowmobiles and basic rescue equipment. And only then will they need equipment to repair the vehicles. 3 people will be enough. It seems Van has experience in winter rescue operations. However, he refused to go. But he is responsible for the security service. His first priority is to protect Miss Green, so he won't leave her. And besides, he can't take her to a dangerous place. 25 people are waiting for help in this cold. Van must be aware of what is more important. Of course he gives a report. This is Miss Green. Kevin told Van to go inside. If he wasn't helping, then at least he shouldn't interfere. Kevin will go to the scene of the incident. He has extensive experience in rescue operations. The group went to rescue the Japanese. This is the rescue team speaking. They are almost there. We need to confirm the coordinates. There is a broken transport near the crevasse. A bus fell into the crevasse. Rescuers will arrive soon. They are already here. Kevin asked what happened. They arrived at McMurdo, got into their cars, and headed to the base. At first the weather was fine, but halfway there a snowstorm started. Suddenly an avalanche started ahead. Along with the snow, a huge stone came hurtling towards them. We had to make sharp turns to avoid a collision. My whole life flashed before my eyes. The car wouldn't start. With such damage, it cannot be repaired on site. Everything is fine. There are no casualties. They will get into cars and get to the base. The car will be towed later. Suddenly, an oncoming bus fell through the snow. It turned out that there was a crevice there. But this is a confirmed safe route. Perhaps because of the avalanche, they deviated from the route. Those on the bus did not respond. Not many people die in accidents like this, so maybe Dr. Nozomi's radio just broke. The base is nearby. They will call for help. Kevin asked if they had tried shouting to the people on the bus. Repeatedly, but the blizzard drowns out the sounds. It's too dangerous to descend by rope. We need to wait until the equipment is delivered. But there may be wounded there. The bus is in an extremely unstable position. The slightest shift in weight and it will collapse. David will descend into the crevice. There's a snowfall now. If they continue, the people in the bus will be buried in snow. And if the heater breaks during the fall, the survivors will find themselves trapped in ice. And if the avalanche happens again, that's the end. David could be in great danger, of course, as could the survivors. There are 15 people there. David descended into the crevasse. The radio is broken completely and irrevocably. Other devices are somewhere below. This has never happened to him in his life. He is an ordinary cook. Don't panic. They've probably already called for help. The bleeding has stopped, but the body temperature continues to fall. The heater is also broken. It is dangerous to keep the wounded man in this condition. David climbed down onto the roof of the bus. It's in place. You can lower the ladder. The door was completely blocked. It was possible to break the windshield, but it was worth knocking first. David started knocking on the window. It looks like rescuers have arrived. David appeared at the window. When it became clear that he had been noticed, he broke the glass. One person is seriously injured. The rest are fine. He has a penetrating wound on his leg, and evacuating him will take a long time. They may not have time to save the others. David asked for the stretcher to be dropped on his signal. Those who can move independently will go first. Nozomi is a doctor. She will go last. The group members begin to climb up. Too slow, the bus will fall soon. It's time to lower the stretcher. Nozomi refused to go now. They don't have time. She can't leave the wounded man alone. The stretcher was lowered. The wounded man is fastened and can be lifted. Nozomi remained. Then the bus started to fall. Nozomi was thrown to the other end of the cabin. She looked out the window. The glass she was now standing on cracked. The bus fell much deeper. The further, the worse. David made it to the bus. He asked Nozomi if she was okay. She must not move. If you quickly get on the bus, the glass might not hold up. If only the pneumatic drive was in order. You have to try it. David asked if Nozomi could press the button to open the door. She doesn't know which one. This button is next to the handbrake. There should be an image of a door there. Nozomi found the button. If David breaks the glass, the force of the impact could cause her to fall. She can't take a step. Maybe she should. When she's safe, she can curse David as much as she wants. Nozomi was afraid that she wouldn't succeed, but she still took a step. If only the door would open. She opened. David threw the rope. Nozomi needs to put it on herself and tighten it under her arms. Now let him get off the bus slowly. She will survive even if she fails. Nozomi asked why David was so angry. If the bus crashes, they're going to die, so she better get her ass back here quick. Cracks began to appear on the glass. It broke. Stop yelling, it's annoying. Nozomi was hanging from a rope held by David. Having got out, she asked where the wounded man was. He was immediately taken to the base. Even if Nozomi is a doctor, she has to think about herself too. It was as if she was going to die. Susumu is glad that she is safe. David lit a cigarette. In any case, they finally gathered, the people who would meet the winter together. David was working out in the base's gym. His body was covered with scars. They're going to take a commemorative photo now. Everyone should gather at the entrance immediately. How annoying this is. David walked out of the gym. Nozomi called out to him. She never thanked him yesterday. She apologized for screaming. She was confused and very scared. Nozomi tried to thank David in Korean. No need to thank or apologize. He was just doing his duty. That chatterbox again. David will pretend not to hear. But it didn't help. He said he was lost in thought. Then Kim asked what he was thinking about. David said it was personal. Kim did not lag behind. He noticed that David smoked a lot. Everyone gathered. They are just like Olympians. This base is intended for cooperation and friendship between Korea, China, and Japan. So it is best to stand mixed together, without separating by nationality. Little did David know then what a nightmare they were about to face. It's best not to miss sunset today. They will definitely not see such a sunset again in the next 4 months. Today the polar night officially begins. In a couple of days the temperature will drop to -40. There is also a high chance of heavy snowfall, so be careful when performing missions outside. I wonder if it would be possible to spend the last day of filming without lighting at the base. One Chinese cosmologist wants to go with them on the filming. It can't be helped. She's the daughter of the owner of Hwanho Group. There is no need to coddle these continental upstarts. The researchers filmed the penguins. This is the first time Maylene sees so much. She wants help to catch the penguin. She will bring it to her room. It was impossible. Kin knew she was stupid. But this was going too far. There are a lot of penguins here. Having one as a pet should be fine. There is a rule prohibiting the capture of animals, unless it is part of research or necessary in an emergency. Maylin decided that she would ask her dad to buy her a penguin. She wants to take a photo hugging a penguin, but that's not allowed either. This is even more dangerous than you can imagine. Maylin doesn't understand how these cute penguins can be dangerous. Let her look through the binoculars and soon she will understand everything herself. Maylin looked at the swimming penguins through binoculars. A seal appeared. He came to play. This is not a seal, but a sea lion. And he is not here to play, he is hunting penguins. The sea lion grabbed the penguin. Other sea lions appeared. The king will appear soon. This is a killer whale. She grabbed the sea lion and swam away. Antarctica is not a tourist zone, but a battlefield in the harshest environment on Earth. And the animals here are not cute, but fighters for survival. It turned out even better than he thought. He was lucky, because it was the last day. It's time to go back, the sun is setting. There's a long, long night ahead. A meteorite was approaching the Earth. It's been 4 months since the sun set, and they're still complaining. This whiner is always complaining. He was like that in college too. It's time to get used to it. Especially since the night is coming to an end. In about 40 hours you will be able to admire the sea. Bill never thought it would be so bad without sunlight. And Terry liked it, all because he drinks every night. In college they called him a fountain. At the freshman party he drank all the macchioli, looked at the sky, and threw up. Bill will be telling this story at Terry's funeral too. It's just incredible to work with a friend in such a remote place. They are not friends. David is alone again, although Bill has invited him to join them several times. He's like Kim, only he eats only after everyone leaves. Maybe he likes it that way. David is a nice guy. They see Bill often at the gym. He's not as weird as everyone thinks. He just likes being alone. This is what is called problems with socialization. Dan suggested playing table tennis after lunch to increase the level of socialization. Many were busy. The Japanese are getting ready for an expedition, but the car and some equipment are broken. Terry still hasn't gotten along with the Japanese and Chinese. It's still as uncomfortable as it was before. He's just Korean, so he supports the Koreans. Lunch was over and that idiot Kim had missed it again. They are cooks, and their job is to feed you tasty and healthy food. You need to chop the vegetables and 2 large abalones. But lunch is over. Kim was doing research. Finally, he found it. Now he is the best in history. The cook's unexpected appearance outraged him apparently. He had not been taught to knock before entering someone's room. He knocked, but Kim didn't hear, so he told him to leave and not to peek. Sawamura is a cook. He has no idea what Kim is doing here, and he doesn't care. He just brought him food. This is Korean-style abalone porridge. It increases endurance. Kim should take care of his health. He doesn't look well. He thanked Sawamura and again asked him to leave. There was no need to worry about him. Sawamura probably wanted to steal his discovery. However, Kim was still hungry. When the cooks came out of the kitchen, they found him naked to the waist. Maybe his temperature has risen sharply. He is very hungry. So, there wasn't much porridge. Research is good, but we mustn't forget to eat. Now Sawamura will bring Kim a bowl of hot rice with a side dish. This is not what he needs. Sawamura is a Michelin-starred chef and will prepare him an exquisite dish. Kim is too hungry. He grabs Sawamura's hand with his teeth and begins to bite it. He is pushed away. Kim asks where he is. Then he lunges at one of the cooks again. He is incredibly strong. 2 cooks try to restrain him. The third one calls for help. Kim has gone crazy. They have no idea what's going on, but he needs to be subdued. He is so strong and he has a terrible fever. His body is just burning. Kim growls. They have no choice but to take him to the medical center. I wonder how they will carry this madman. There is a way. We need to tie his legs with a belt. The hands should also be tied. The head also needs to be fixed. Sawamura is a bit hot. Kim suddenly went crazy. Sawamura will be happy if he's just gone crazy. It is obvious that he has a high fever. First of all, we need to measure his temperature. When the body temperature rises, although not often, hallucinations occur. Nozomi inserts a thermometer into Kim's ear. Something is wrong. Nozomi thinks the thermometer is broken and asks for a new one. Maki bandages Sawamura's arm. Suddenly she notices something. She asks Sawamura if he is okay. He has a high fever. Now it is clear why he is so hot. There is nothing unusual about this. Nozomi will prescribe treatment. Sawamura asks if Maki has always been this appetizing. This is sexual harassment. She never thought he was such a person. This is not harassment. She really does look delicious. Sawamura lets out a roar. He pounces on Maki. Nozomi wants to stop him. The cook grabs her hand. Sawamura has the same symptoms as Kim. It may be rabies, but the symptoms are different, and the incubation period is too short. We need to lock the door and get out of here. Sawamura had just killed a man in front of their eyes. They had to lock up the killer and report to Captain Lee. Sawamura is ready to attack again. John wants to hit him. Sawamura bites him. And John doesn't interest him anymore. He pounces on the cook. Meanwhile, Maki gets up from the floor. She attacks the cook. We need to run and call the others before they are attacked. It looks like they are going somewhere. Shuri asks John to step aside. So they decided to abandon the patients. Things are bad. John is starting to change too. He bites into the cook's neck. John will kill all the damn Japs. Here comes David. He heard the screams on his way into the hall. John turns to him. David grabs him. He hit his head against the wall. If you think about it, he asked for it. David twists his arms. John is incredibly strong, as if he were not human. All these people are out of their minds. Maki attacks Shuri. David kicks her in the face. We need to get out of here. The cook bites Shuri. She pulls her leg out. Based on the situation, Nozomi believes that infection occurs through blood. A victim bitten by an extremely aggressive patient exhibits the same symptoms within 2 to 3 minutes. It is unknown whether the infection is transmitted through the respiratory system. Shuri asks how this is treated. Theoretically, the HDCV vaccine against rabies and diploid cells could work. There is no certainty. Nozomi is faced with something like this for the first time. In any case, we need to report to Captain Lee. Shuri will stay here and lock the door. Someone might come in here without knowing what's going on. Of course, someone has to do it. Shuri saw the HDCV vaccine when she was putting away the medications. Her temperature is already rising. She doesn't want to become like these monsters. Shuri found a vaccine. She injects it into herself. Great, she's healed. But for some reason, she is very hot. David and Nozomi arrive at Captain Lee's office. Nozomi had never seen anything like it. It was similar to hydrophobia. But the aggression was much stronger, and the incubation period was too short. So Kim was the first to show these symptoms. But it's unclear how he managed to become infected, as he never left his lab. You need to go there? There might be answers there. Kevin hopes for David's help. In addition, we need to see how those locked up are doing. Kevin has to go there. It's his responsibility. Arriving there, he discovers that the infected have escaped into the corridor. We need to run. One of the expedition members walks up the stairs, listening to music. Kevin and Nozomi are running towards him. Kevin yells at him to run. He didn't hear. They are in such a hurry to get somewhere, as if someone is chasing them. Malin is resting. Someone is knocking at the door. This is Wong. He brought Malin something to eat. Then he hears a scream. The sound is distant but clear. Van goes to check. He doesn't need to ask permission. He can do whatever he wants. Wong tells Mei Ling to lock the door and not open it to anyone except him. He scares her. It wasn't just a loud scream. It was the kind of scream one makes when one's life is in danger. David found a room to hide in. He closes the door. The infected begin to drum on it. Kevin signals Nozomi to be quiet and listen. They left. We need to head to the observatory and assess the situation. The observatory is on the 4th floor. We'll have to go up. It's too risky. There is a control room there. Those who work in warehouses or other buildings do not know what is happening. They will warn them of the danger via radio. Fan met the infected. She rushes at him. It's incredible where this woman gets so much strength from. She pulls her hand away. Van hits her. She asked for it. However, she attacks again. Even the fighting technique Van used didn't knock her down. Then this time it will be very painful. Van attacks. The woman begins to feel sick. This is human flesh. Her intestines have turned into minced meat, but she still gets up. Van doesn't know what to do, but the situation is clearly unusual, and he needs to return to Miss Green immediately. If this woman is a human being, then he will bow before the strength of her spirit and apologize. But if she's just a monster, then there's nothing to worry about. Van blew off her head. We need to get back to Miss Green. Then Van hears the sound of stomping. The monsters are approaching. Van fights back. There is no end to them. We need to get back to Miss Green. Van runs away. This is all great, but the observatory is on the 4th floor, and they are on the 3rd. There should be a duty officer there. There were no messages from them. They were probably injured. Or if they are not aware of the situation yet, you can call them. Kevin is calling. As he expected, the monsters had entered the control room. One of them throws the phone on the floor. They don't pick up the phone. We need to get to the control room. Kevin asks if Nozomi is sure that the infection occurs through a bite. So far, this seems the most obvious. So all they need is to not get bitten. No matter how mad they are, human teeth can't bite through that thickness. Nozomi is also going to wear this jacket. Kevin wanted her to wait here, but it's better this way. Besides, she is also a member of the team. Now they are protected from bites. You need to protect your face and make sure the gloves do not slip off. If Nozomi gets in the way, Kevin can go on without her. She can do the same to him. The monsters are still on the stairs. You have to run without looking back. A monster blocks Nozomi's way. This is Shuri. She pounces on Nozomi, and he pulls the glove off her hand. She's about to bite Nozomi, but Kevin hits her. Then Shuri attacks him. Kevin fights back. He throws Shuri down the stairs. Kevin and Nozomi are about to lock themselves indoors. A hand sticks through the doorway. She grabs Kevin. The monster almost made it into the room. Here, Nozomi attacks him. He's falling. The door closes. However, they are not alone in the room. They have guests. Kevin manages to fight off one. Another monster knocks him to the floor. He's about to bite him. Kevin resists. The monsters cling to his legs. One tears off a piece of fabric. Kevin won't last long like this. Here the monster is hit. Nozomi hit him with a chair. Thanks to her, Kevin was able to fight back. He pulls Nozomi into a room with glass doors and walls. The monster hits the glass. Kevin and Nozomi are surrounded. But this is bulletproof glass, so there is nothing to worry about yet. The monsters shouldn't have gone against Van. Time is running out. It's time to go back. Malin is shivering under the blanket. There is a knock at the door. This is Van. Malin opens. He's not hurt, but they're in trouble. Malin heard screams, sounds of struggle and groans. A terrible noise was heard recently, and then everything became quiet. Van is nearby. Malin won't lay a finger on anyone. He won't allow it. Malin thinks someone started a riot. Wang says there is no information yet. In any case, it is dangerous to stay here. But without proper training outside the base, they will not last even a day. There is an emergency evacuation zone near the main building. It should be safe there. Malin needs to dress warmer. It's for her own good. She is getting dressed. You need to walk as quietly as possible and, on Van's signal, run to the evacuation zone, not helping anyone, including him, and run without looking back. It's time to go. They go out into the corridor. The monsters disappeared. Everything is going too smoothly. It's not good. Wang leads Malin to the stairs. Someone is walking, judging by the sound of footsteps. A man. Wang tells Malin to stay behind. He swings his weapon. No need. Dan didn't want to kill Satoshi. He had no choice. He didn't want to die. So Dan wasn't crazy. He asks if Wang and Malin are definitely healthy. Don't go near Dan. Van asks what's going on here. He can't go there. God knows what's going on there. You can't go down. They've all gone crazy. Van asks Dan to calm down and tell everything in order. After lunch, they looked for someone to play table tennis with. Everyone is so busy, and Dan spends the rest of his break in splendid isolation. He met Satoshi and asked if he was busy. Satoshi had just finished his shift and was going to rest. Dan invited him to play a game of tennis, Korea versus Japan. This expression is incorrect. Perhaps Japan versus Korea would be more appropriate. Get your feet in your hands and go to the table. There are disagreements between the Japanese and Koreans, because no one has ever mentioned that they get along. It doesn't matter. As long as they're having fun, everything's fine. Dan was winning 11-9. In the end, the victory went to the Korean Satoshi, of course, knows Kim Yun, who noted that Asada Mao has no fewer medals. I wonder where all her Olympic gold is. Dan was just joking. He called Satoshi a Japanese degenerate. He heard perfectly well that Dan had insulted him. He misunderstood. It doesn't matter. He has no desire to talk to Dan. Here they came across monsters. They noticed them. Dan and Satoshi started running. They soon found themselves at a dead end. Satoshi tried to talk to the monsters, not realizing that they had lost their minds. Dan pushed him towards them. They pounced on him. Dan started running. He looked back. These thugs captured Satoshi. Dan would gladly help, but he has no weapons or fighting skills. He asks to take him with him. Van refuses. His strength is not enough to protect both of them at once. Let him go with them. They can't leave him. Van agrees. They are heading to the evacuation zone. It should be safe there. Milan didn't understand what Dan had said before. He spoke too quickly. She couldn't make out whether he said kill or dead. Dan said he almost died. Korean is so difficult, Milan almost cracked it. Meanwhile, David made his way into the laboratory. This should be enough. He will take this to the captain. Let his minds figure out what is what. David walks out into the hallway. He sees that the doors to the stairs are open. He has a bad feeling, just like then. There are no shell casings, no bodies either. Most likely this is the work of crazy people. Someone appears behind David. He hasn't lost his mind yet. You don't have to have eyes in the back of your head to spot Larry. Even though he tried not to make noise, he was still a long way from being a ninja by sound. It was easy to determine who was where and in what numbers. Larry asks why people have suddenly gone crazy. David has no idea. He has collected scientific articles and hopes that they will help find the answer. Larry heads to the observatory, where there is a communications center. Many people don't know about the danger yet. They must warn them. David will go with Larry. The monsters are about to burst in here. We need to find something that can help. This will do. Nozomi thinks Kevin is going to fight off the monsters with a camera. He opens the door. He managed to generate an electric charge in the camera. He hits the monster with it. He falls. Another one attacks from behind. Kevin shocks him too. He did some magic with the flash and got a stun gun. They are not dead, just temporarily immobilized. We need to lock them here. It'll do for now. The equipment is faulty. They will not be able to transmit messages outside the base. There should be a connection in the emergency evacuation building. They will call for help from there. The signal will probably go through the main building. Then they should hurry. Then someone knocks on the door and asks if anyone is alive. Looks like the head gasket needs to be replaced. There is no other way. The necessary equipment is in the second warehouse. Let them get everything ready for now. It doesn't seem complicated, but it's better to explain it so that James understands. The cylinder head gasket, which is located between the engine block and the cylinder head, needs to be replaced. To do this, you should first de-energize the system by disconnecting the negative terminal. Then drain the coolant, reduce the pressure in the system, disconnect the muffler pipe from the manifold, remove the battery, dismantle all hoses and pipes, remove the fuel lines, disassemble the attachments, replace them, and reassemble everything. In short, it's easier to take another car, as this can take a lot of time. But only this machine is properly equipped for their mission. Then they will have to wait. James doesn't care, but he'll have to listen to these blockheads. There is no need to worry about them. They clearly hate each other. Looks like it's going to be a long time. Susumu would not trust repairs to Koreans at all. They probably say nasty things about Koreans. They don't need bread, but give them wax. You can really feel how they want to get away, but they have to hang around here. Koreans can only plagiarize the achievements of the Japanese. They can't even fix a car. The deputy captain notes that they can hear everything. But it doesn't matter. They won't understand a word. This is no reason to stoop to insults. Due to urgent repairs to the third car, I had to push so hard that my legs went numb. For some reason they waited until the last minute. Susumu is just lazy. He doesn't look like a typical Japanese person. It's not clear what's wrong with them. Up until this point they were all communicating normally. They say the worst car ever made in the land of centipedes is called the Toyota Scion. Only the Japanese could have spewed out such crap. Good taste has sunk into oblivion. Nothing good remains. But they are the best in the world. Bill somehow forgot about that. It seems to be the voice of Larry Fox. Those bitten suddenly lost the ability to speak, so they can open the door. It's okay, they weren't bitten. Judging by their looks, they already understood everything. Larry is here to inform everyone of the situation, and he believes Kevin has had the same thought. David took as much data as he could. These are temporary precautions. But this won't last long. We need to leave here as soon as possible. This is Captain Lee speaking. All expedition members must stop work and immediately proceed to the emergency evacuation building. Those who cannot reach the evacuation zone immediately should block all entrances and wait for the rescue team to arrive. And you need to remember that you can't let yourself be bitten. The situation is emergency. It is not known what happened, but in any case, we need to move quickly. The walk to the evacuation building is quite long. Bill thinks there is no need to go there. They don't know what's out there, so they should be careful. Captain Lee gave clear orders to move out immediately. Bill does not dare to ignore orders. The captain said that if they were not ready to move out, they should close all the entrances and wait for the rescue team. So Bill thinks they're not ready. You can't be sure of everything. Since it got dark and the snowstorm started, they have no idea what is going on outside. But here they are definitely safe if they block all the entrances and exits. Then this place will serve as their refuge for some time. And if possible, they will use cars and get to their destination many times faster than others. Bill sees no reason to take risks just to get to the evacuation building, and it's not a given that it's safer. This is too inactive, but it's safe. There is no point in arguing. The captain's deputy is with them in the captain's absence. All powers are transferred to his deputy. Then let Miss Sayaka give the order. They need to put aside thoughts about their nationality and just make the right decision. They don't need any unnecessary fuss. There is no point in listening to these cowards. Sayaka wonders if Samajin took a walkie-talkie with him when he left for the second warehouse. He probably took it, although I'm not sure. Then they will ask Samajin about the situation outside, and then Sayaka will make a decision. She is trying to contact Samajin. His radio is lying on the snow. He doesn't answer. Something happened there. They need to urgently move to the evacuation building. The other one thinks that they should wait here. Apparently, loyalty is not familiar to the Koreans. They have lost contact with their comrade. The Japanese bitch's miscarriage decided to bring them all to the grave for one reason. If he wants to die like a street dog, that's his business, but they have no part in it. You need to speak English so that everyone understands. They have an emergency situation and they are squabbling. James asks Sayaka to give the order. The rest will obey without further questions. The old man is older and wiser than them, and Sayaka needs to make a decision, but she has too little information. The monsters are on the rampage again. We need to get to the evacuation building, but first we need to tell the others more information about the current situation. They will find out everything anyway, and there are also means of communication in the evacuation building. We need to act quickly. Then they move towards the evacuation building. They are going down the stairs. They are met by members of the expedition, who are not yet aware of what happened. They were sleeping when they heard the announcement. There is no time to explain what happened. We need to get out of here quickly. Meanwhile, Wang and Mei-ling come across some corpses. Mei-ling screams, but you have to try not to make a sound. The monsters are already gone. They were lucky. But each of those killed here turns into a monster, and one of those lying there opens his eyes. He rises. Mei-ling looks back. The monster sinks its teeth into her. Van attacks him. The monster made a fatal mistake. He couldn't escape from Van intact. Dan thinks that Mei-ling has been bitten and that he should stay away from her, so she will become the same. The monster tore the jacket but did not bite through the skin. There is no need to worry. Everything is fine. Because of Van's fault, something irreparable almost happened. He asks for forgiveness. We need to get out of here. Dan didn't realize that the monster only bit Mei-ling's jacket. He was sure that she would soon turn into a monster and they should leave her here. Van had gone crazy. If Dan said something so obscene again, Van would leave no trace of him. But she was bitten. Instead of explaining, Wang grabs Dan by the throat. Mei-ling tries to stop him. Dan is rude and incompetent. If she lets him, Van will finish him off. Mei-ling can't allow this. She demands that he be released immediately. Van does as she wants. Now we have to leave. Dan will still have to see who gets who. They come across monsters, and apparently conflict is unavoidable. More monsters appear behind. Mei-ling should stay behind Van. He will distract the monsters and she can run outside. As long as Van doesn't get her to a safe place, nothing will happen to him. There's no need to worry about him. But he won't be able to take care of Dan either, so let him survive on his own. We need to make a decision quickly. They will wait for the next announcement, or until help arrives. James is betting his reputation on Sayaka making a sound decision. First, you need to lock all the doors leading outside. Susumu is unsure of Sayaka's decision. To be honest, she doesn't know what's best yet. But she is sure of one thing: the captain's duty is to ensure the safety of the group. If safety is the issue, then they should stay here. Sayaka decided to sort out the situation first, so she hopes that Susumu respects her decision. If something really terrible happened outside, some people might need help, and there are 9 of them here, and they are all in good health. They are hiding only because they are scared. They should be ashamed. Saburo agrees with Susumu and asks Sayaka to reconsider her decision. Susumu may be right, but they don't know anything about the current situation. Susumu asks to let him deal with this. He will go to the emergency evacuation building, and they will stay here. Saburo will go with him. Takashi understands their feelings, but one has to think about the position they are putting Sayaka in with their rebellion. They should act according to the rules. This isn't a riot. Susumu just wants to scout out the situation, not sit and wait for the next message. They are going crazy again. Let them use a language that is understandable to everyone. Susumu asks if there are other options. He can do as he pleases. Susumu will bring people, so let them wait. Don't pay any attention to them. They will do what they have to do. Everyone is so scared. The snowstorm is only getting worse. You can hardly see anything. It might be better to go back and wait until the snowstorm subsides. The snowstorm was really raging, but if they returned, they would lose time that the victims might not have. They are already close. We need to pick up the pace. The situation couldn't be worse. They can't overcome that many monsters. Van will distract them. And let Meilin run as fast as she can. Dan didn't understand anything, but it looked like Van was trying to buy time. He must go with Meilin. That's an order. Van attracts the attention of the monsters. They are ready to attack. Van wields an axe. It's time for Meilin to run. Dan grabs her hand. He decided to run away with her. 3 monsters broke through. But it's even better that Meilin is with this Korean and not alone. Dan and Meilin run outside. They are being chased by monsters. Dan hopes that Wong will do a better job of containing them. At this rate, they would catch up with them in no time. And after all, Wong told Dan to survive on his own. But for some reason, he dragged Meilin along with him. He lets go of her hand. Meilin falls. Dan yells at her to follow him. The monsters are already very close. It seems like Meilin has twisted her ankle. She sees a building with a staircase nearby. She manages to climb up there. The monsters are catching up. They are about to start climbing the stairs. The entrance to the building is locked. The monsters stand at the stairs, but do not try to climb them. However, one of them grabs the step. He starts to rise up. Van is still fighting monsters. One of those chasing Meilin climbs the stairs. The number of monsters is not decreasing. It's time to get out of here, but the monsters continue to attack. One approaches Van from behind. He tears a piece of cloth from his clothes. Van fights back. One bite and he will become the same. For Meilin, this will be a big threat. These monsters are almost invulnerable. Only a serious head injury can stop them. If Van gets bitten, he'll leave without a second thought. It'll be better for everyone, especially Meilin. Someone with a bandaged hand grabs the monster by the jaw. He twists his head off. This is David. He attacks another monster. David and Van were joined by Kevin, Nozomi, and 2 others. Kevin hasn't been bitten yet. We need to save the others and find a way to escape. In such a snowstorm, you need to keep your eyes open. Otherwise, you might end up in the wrong place. There have been cases where people got lost near their own homes and froze to death. They're just idiots. This is definitely not about Susumu. He navigates by the lanterns. Then he hears something. If he's talking about a snowstorm, then Saburo has been hearing about it for a long time. But it's not a blizzard. Someone is calling for help. The snowstorm is so strong that Saburo cannot make out where the sound is coming from. If they heard it, it must be somewhere nearby. Saburo suggests splitting up. It will be faster. Everything is fine. Saving people comes first. Then they will do it. They have flashlights. If they find anyone, Susumu will give a light signal. You can also shout. They diverge. It seems like the building is on that side. Saburo will say that he didn't find anyone. Meilin continues to call for help. It's too noisy. No one will hear her. Dad warned her that Antarctica is a dangerous place. She shouldn't have come here. Meilin tries to drive away the monster. She kicks him in the teeth. If you jump, it will probably hurt. Even if that were the case, she would never become a monster. Meilin falls. Her eyelids grow heavy. She hit her head. The monsters are approaching. Then the light from a flashlight hits them. Saburo asks who is there. David and the others continue to fight off the monsters. There are only more of them. You need to break through them and get into the hall. The monster attacks one of the 2 team members who have no combat skills. The second one yells at the monster. He attacks him too. Larry hasn't been bitten yet, but there are too many of them. Sooner or later, they will definitely eat them. Dealing with each one on your own is not an option. David will eliminate them all at once, like a fireman. The monster pounces on Nozomi. She's trying not to get bitten. Kevin sees that Nozomi is in mortal danger. However, he has to fight off the monster. The one who attacked Nozomi is about to bite her. Then a stream of water hits him. David waters the monsters with a fire hydrant. The water pushes them back. David tells the others to leave. Kevin hopes that he will return alive. They go to the evacuation building. Larry has to go too. David will buy some time. But this hydrant is not connected to the water supply like in the city. It has a limit. Sooner or later, the water will run out. Compared to what happened in the past, this is child's play. Larry should hurry while there is still time. David will be fine. Saburo asks where the evacuation building is. He seems to be lost. Visibility is terrible. Saburo only sees who is in front of him when the monster comes close. However, he manages to push him away. Saburo still didn't understand what was going on, but now he had drawn the attention of the monsters that were chasing Meilin. Meanwhile, Susumu finds her. There are traces of several people here, definitely 2 or 3, no matter what the visibility was. From such a distance, they would have definitely noticed it. Susumu tries to bring Meilin back to her senses. She is unconscious but still breathing. We need to get her out of here, but her leg is broken, and moving it will only make it worse. But you definitely can't leave it out in the cold. Dan reached the evacuation building. He's saved, the monsters won't get him here. First you need to turn on the heating, and it wouldn't hurt to have something to drink. Dan needs something to drink. He found coffee, caramel macchiato. All that was left was to find sugar. Dan is drinking coffee. Great, but something is missing. He's trying to find alcohol, but everything here is wrong. Biscuits, water, noodles, canned goods. Finally found it. It was as if he was born again. I wonder how the others are doing. Although it doesn't matter, it's every man for himself. Then Susumu appears and asks to open the door. He looks fine. Dan asks if he was bitten. He doesn't understand what he's talking about. He heard Captain Lee's message and came here. So Susumu doesn't know what's going on. Dan opens the door. Susumu found Meilin on the way here. She was lying in the cold. Dan asks if she was bitten. She probably fell from the tower. Susumu doesn't understand why Dan is asking about bites. Susumu found Meilin 5 minutes ago, or a little more. If she had been bitten, she would have already turned into a monster. People turn into monsters. Susumu asks to explain more slowly so that he understands. But Dan himself doesn't understand what's happening. The monsters are approaching Saburo. He thinks they can react to light. He throws the flashlight. It worked. Now I have to run. He seems to have broken away from them. Dan ran at breakneck speed, and when he turned around, Meilin was no longer visible. He had no choice but to run further. It seems Dan has been drinking. He was hypothermic and in severe shock. Susumu isn't sure that Meilin will wake up. She has a serious injury and hypothermia. If she receives qualified medical care, her chances will increase. Dan hopes she doesn't wake up. If she tells the truth, he'll be in trouble. Someone else comes to the evacuation building and asks if anyone is there. It must be Saburo. But this is Kevin and Van. That big guy is still alive and they're all covered in blood. Susumu wants to open the door, but Dan tells him not to rush. He asks if any of them have been bitten. Kevin replies no. Dan doesn't believe it. They're up to their ears in blood. This is the blood of monsters. Maybe someone was bitten, but certainly not those who are now in front of him. Dan doesn't believe them yet. They have to prove that they weren't bitten. Let them wait 3 minutes. If someone was bitten, he will soon begin to turn into a monster. They are still being chased, but none of them have been bitten. They seem to be doing just fine. Dan doesn't let Susumu open the door. He doesn't know anything about it. Kevin agrees to wait 3 minutes. He believes Dan has a reason for this. Luckily, no one is chasing them now, and it's only 3 minutes. Time has passed, and as Dan sees, they have not mutated. Then he lets them in. They must understand it correctly. Kevin understands. Van sees a can of alcohol. Then he sees Meilin. He pounces on Dan. Van will kill him. Dan did the best he could. He drank and didn't take care of Meilin, and that's all he could do. When she was brought here, she was already in critical condition, and Dan is not a doctor. He deserves to die. Susumu tries to calm Van down. Now is not the time to quarrel. If he wants to live, let him remove his hand right now. Kevin tells Van to stop. This is an order. Van will pay for everything. There should be a first aid kit here. Kevin asks Nozomi to take care of Meilin, and Van will help Nozomi. Kevin and Larry will set up the connection. First, we need to contact the US base and request help. They are 200 kilometers from here. Setting up the connection will take about 10 minutes. It is usually disabled here. It will take approximately 5 minutes to set up the internal broadcasting system. There may be isolated survivors throughout the base. Kevin gives Dan and Susumu 3 minutes. Susumu asks if Kevin saw Saburo on his way here. Kevin didn't see him. Saburo is freezing. He tries to stay calm. He had walked these paths so many times. Even with poor visibility, he would not have gone far. Everything would be fine. He would survive. There's someone ahead, maybe one of those monsters. Taking a closer look, Saburo sees that it is Samajin who went to get the equipment. Saburo calls out to him. He asks for help. But this is no longer Samajin. Saburo falls to his knees. The monster rushes at him. The connection setup is almost complete. Connection established. An unknown disease is currently spreading within the base. Those infected quickly lose their minds, and their strength and aggression increase. The infection is transmitted by a bite through blood. There is no vaccine, so extreme caution must be exercised. Kevin is currently trying to contact the nearest base. Everyone should remain in their places, barricade themselves, and wait for the next message. If the situation forces you to leave your deployment location, you must quickly head to the evacuation building, that's all. Looks like they're having a zombie apocalypse. We must follow orders. Sayaka tells them to check all the doors and windows and lock everything. They will stay here and wait for the rescue team. There are 7 people in the garage, including the deputy captain. The garage is as strong and secure as this building, and they have dedicated transport. Kevin would say they are in a much better position. Besides, they have a deputy with them. She will take care of them. However, David is late. He must have data that would help sort out this situation. There is a knock at the door. Speak of the devil and he will appear. David asks to open the door. Susumu tells him to stand outside for 3 minutes, but Kevin tells him to let him in. It's unlikely that a monster would smoke. David enters. Larry asks if there were any difficulties with the retreat. He says it was a bit of a sweat. Nozomi examines Malin. She urgently needs painkillers. She is unconscious but breathing on her own. Her pulse is normal, and her condition is better than expected. But she's definitely not okay. The tibia of the left leg is broken. She may also have fractures of the 3rd and 5th ribs. There may be more fractures, but they cannot be seen with the naked eye. At best, it would have been limited to broken ribs and a leg. But at worst, the bones would have damaged internal organs. Although even without seeing the full picture, Nozomi is sure that the worst has not happened. Wong asks what will happen to Malin. If she doesn't have surgery soon, she will die. Not that Nozomi is a doctor, she has to do something. They only have a basic first aid kit with a splint and painkillers. Nozomi can't do anything without surgical equipment. All the instruments are at headquarters. Then let Nozomi tell you what is needed. Van will bring everything. The problem won't be solved if he brings a scalpel and anesthetic. Malin needs surgery with an operating table, lighting, and a bunch of instruments. To save her, they need to return to headquarters. Wong asks for instructions. He will take Malin to headquarters and operate on her. It's not that simple, but if nothing is done, she will die. Nozomi will go with Van. She activates captain mode. It is her duty. Van is very grateful. He will protect her with his life. It sounds encouraging, but the 2 of them are not enough. The operation is not as simple as it seems. Nozomi will not be able to carry it out alone. She needs at least 1 assistant. And people are needed to guard the entrance so that she can focus on the main thing. Kevin asks David if he's been to Kim's office. He doesn't know anything about his work, so he grabbed everything he could fit into his bag. It's just a book. There is a flash drive, but it's password protected. But this might come in handy. This is Kim's diary. Everything is in Korean. We finished work at the South Pole. It was freezing cold. It was such a joy to be back at base and so on. Nothing special. Nozomi asks for a moment of attention. Malin is in bad shape. Without proper treatment, she will die. She needs surgery. It can't be done here. Therefore, they must get to headquarters. A minimum of 4 people are needed. Dan will never go back to this hell. It's heartless. But he's right, it's too reckless to rush headlong into the pool. But it's also inhumane to leave a dying comrade. Wong kneels down and begs for help to save Malin. He will remember their kindness for the rest of his life. That is, for the next half hour, until he dies. He asks for the impossible. David is in business. Van didn't care when a whole bunch of people almost died on that bus. David was the one who took the rap for everyone. He remembers this, and Van has been annoying him ever since. It's a matter of duty. A firefighter's job is to save, whether you like the person or not. David hopes that Van is with them this time. Kevin is coming too. He doesn't force Dan. Every life is important to him. It's not right for a cool Japanese guy to sit around while the Chinese and Koreans are being heroic. He'll go with them. Larry wants to help too, but it's better for him to stay here and stay in touch. He's not young anymore, and he's not very good with technology. But that doesn't mean he's useless. With their heroism, they make Dan look like a coward. He will stay here, contact the US base and the Chinese government and bring them up to speed. If that's all, then you can go, but not so fast. First, you need to prepare the patient for transportation, which takes about 15 minutes. Nozomi and Juan will take care of Malin, while the rest will look for weapons and equipment. Larry will read the diary for now. Maybe he'll find something. July 20th, 3 months have passed since the sunset. At this time, the snowstorm began to subside, and clear weather was expected in the coming days. But the news did not end there. An unforgettable meteor show, unlike anything seen on the mainland, was about to begin. An asteroid approached the Earth. Steven knows they're not interested, but he'll still tell them its full name. Asteroid CB0194A14. Samajin asked what would happen if he fell to Earth. Of course, a collision with Earth would cause a catastrophe on the level of the extinction of the dinosaurs, but fortunately, this time the asteroid will fly past. However, due to gravity, a large number of asteroid fragments will be attracted to the Earth. These will be shooting stars, and they will be able to watch hundreds or thousands of meteors decorating the sky for 5 hours right from their base. At least some positive from this endless night, so they will be able to find one meteor. The probability is extremely low. Most meteorites burn up completely upon entering the atmosphere, and even those that survive the test fall into water in 70% of cases. And you shouldn't really count on the fact that the part that falls to Earth will be nearby. Even if one falls near the base, it will hardly be easy to find it in a place where there is pitch darkness and snowstorms around the clock. So you just have to enjoy the show. This is why scientists are called bores. You have to believe in luck. At least one meteor should fall nearby. After all, the South Pole is a treasure trove of meteorites. Let it be so. As a scientist, Steven shouldn't say that, but the chances are still 50-50. Bill lifted the barbell 300 times. David said that he spreads his arms too wide, which only injures his pectoral muscles. Bill wanted David to check his overall form. He never thought about this. Sayaka announced that the meteor show would begin soon, and everyone who wanted to watch should gather at the entrance. David won't go, but you might not get such a sight in your entire life. David sees no point in staring at the lights falling from the sky. It can't be explained in a few words, but such sights make him feel uneasy. Bill wanted David to stop speaking in riddles, but he wasn't going to explain anything. He doesn't have to talk if he doesn't want to, and Bill will go look at the meteorites. He didn't think that so many people would gather. Everyone came out except for those working and the firemen. He said he didn't like looking at the falling lights. This is quite expected. The meteor shower has begun. Kevin was contacted from the observatory. They have an emergency, and they ask him to come over. Kevin came to the observatory. A small avalanche was discovered 5 kilometers to the west. She probably can't reach the base. It's surprising that the avalanche even started in such weather. Come to think of it, it could have started due to a sudden change in the weather. It seems that the reason is different. It is an impact, and strong enough to trigger an avalanche. For example, a meteorite fall. The theory is good, but even a small lump of snow can cause an avalanche. Maybe so. Now Steven's task is simply to report. If everyone agrees, Kevin will begin preparations for the meteorite search mission. Every team has a ton of work to do, and throwing extra work at them is hardly a good idea. Kevin realizes that the chances are slim, and now is not the best time. They are not even sure that the avalanche was caused by a fallen meteorite, and even if it was, in such a blizzard it will be difficult to find it and deliver it to the base. Larry was willing to take the risk. Even if the chances are 0, it's worth a try. That's the spirit of exploration. He'll try to persuade the Korean team. Then Kevin will deal with the Chinese team. Since they think it's worth a try, the Japanese team will join in too. It would be good to draw up an action plan. They can't burden everyone with work in 3 shifts. In addition to accidents and illnesses, there may be problems with the morale of expedition members. We need to try to sort out this mission within a week. If there are no results, they will stop searching. 6th day of searching, no results. Kim kept a research journal for himself, which Dan thought was childish. It's a good question why Kim writes with a pencil. They're at the South Pole, and as soon as they get out of the car, everything is going to freeze to hell, including the ink in the pen. Of course, if a space pen developed in the USA were found, then it would be possible to write on land, underwater, and even in outer space. It's all about the nitrogen that's used in these pens, so they can be used even in places where there's no gravity. And this pen can last for about 100 years. The only downside is the astronomical price. Kim will tell them another interesting thing about space pens and pencils. I should have sat further away from him. They have arrived, we can go out. They only have to endure 1 more day. Takashi will definitely die. But it's only 1 day. Today, they will definitely find the meteorite. Mr. Chatterbox seems pleased. It's a waste of time. It's impossible to find a small meteorite in this huge wasteland. Takashi doesn't understand at all why he should do this shitty job if he's just a cook. They are chatting again in their own language. David will repeat again. You need to move in pairs and maintain the same speed of movement. If you follow these rules, there shouldn't be any problems. David hopes that Malin understood everything he said. He is irritating. She can only understand him when he speaks slowly. If everything is clear, then go ahead. They are not here for a walk. Malin's safety is Van's concern, so let David mind his own business. 2 days ago, Malin went skiing right in the middle of a mission. If she dares to call herself a cosmologist, let her do her job. David couldn't even dream of how much money the Mailing family had invested in this expedition. But David doesn't care. Van warns that he no longer intends to tolerate his antics. It is not yet clear who tolerates whom. Malin asked Wong to stop. She understood everything and will do everything that is required of her. There is no need to talk about obvious things. Today, Malin will definitely find this meteorite. They and Van went first. Surely they have already spotted a good ski trail. It doesn't matter. Malin will be a great help to them if she doesn't get in the way. In any case, everything will be fine with her. This bodyguard is not some kind of idiot. It's strange that David says that about Vanya. You can't explain it in words. There's just a special energy emanating from him. Only those who have been to hell can understand this. Since their tourists have already gone on an excursion, they should at least get down to business. The meteorite is black as coal, smoother than other stones. And this is also just a stone. There is no need to look for it so hard. Instead, it is better to go in that direction. Van noticed an excellent slope there, just right for skiing. Malin will like it too. They can go for a ride later. Today she will definitely find this meteorite, but they don't even know if it's there. He's definitely there. Wong knows that the Mailing family has a flair for precious things. If you look at her father, he was indeed born with this instinct, but now it's a different matter. Malin is her father's daughter, and she will definitely find this meteorite. Let Van not stand idle and help her. Suddenly Malin fell into a hole. It's unclear where she came from here. Wong asked Mailing if she was okay. Looks like her ass is finished. It's strange how the earth fell away here. Maybe Malin gained weight. It's probably because of the avalanche. Apparently there was a hole there initially, and snow piled up on top of it. Sounds plausible. Wong states the fact, and Malin's weight has nothing to do with it. Van offered her his hand. Malin slipped and fell again. Then she noticed a stone. She began to clear it of snow. It's black and smooth. It seems that Malin has found the meteorite after all. It's better not to touch it. It could be dangerous. Wong contacted the search party. It seems they have achieved the mission's goal. They probably found a black stone and are passing it off as a meteorite. Since they have contacted them, we need to move towards them. Upon arriving at the scene, Kim realized that they had indeed found a meteorite. It needs to be taken to the base and examined thoroughly. But Kim is 99% sure it's a meteorite. Most likely a rare stony iron meteorite. This seems to be a rare case in the world. Stop staring at him. We need to take him to the base first. They tried to lift the meteorite, but it turned out to be too heavy. It looks not like a stone, but like a piece of iron. Not exactly, but it certainly contains a huge amount of metal. Kim asks David for help. He easily lifted the meteorite. It's not hard for him. You could pretend it was hard. Incredibly, they actually found this meteorite. Tomorrow in the lab, Kim will examine it more thoroughly. He asked if it was possible to cut a piece from the meteorite. The information will be limited if you study it superficially. Kevin may have been in space, but he's not a scientist. Kim is the best expert in the field, so he can make his own decision. What a day, a great find. As expected, the pebble fell from the sky. We need to get to know each other better. On July 29th, Kim wrote in his diary that something incredible had happened. He entered the dining room. He was invited to sit with them. There's no need to call him. He'll start pestering you again. But he's so funny, even though he sometimes goes too far. Kim sat down next to David. Oddly enough, he remained silent. Suddenly, he stopped eating and stood up. Everyone looked at him with bewilderment. Nozomi greeted him. Kim remained silent. Suddenly, he asked Nozomi to give him some advice. She agrees, but first she needs to have a snack. Kim dragged her along with him. Nozomi asked to let her go. Kim apologized. He's interested in something. Nozomi must be good at understanding viruses. Of course, she's a doctor, but she's an emergency care specialist, so she doesn't know much about viruses. However, she should know more than others, that's true. Kim asks to give him some time. They come to his laboratory. Kim wanted to know what it was. Nozomi's specialty isn't bacteriology, but she can tell it's clearly something alive. They are too small to be bacteria, and their structure is more complex than viruses, and they do not resemble anything in appearance. It looks like something extraterrestrial. Nozomi is right, it's not from Earth. It seems like they want to make some important announcement, probably related to that meteorite. They should have gathered only those who cared. Dan hadn't slept for 20 hours. Since everyone is busy and tired, Kim will get straight to the point. As a result of the stone's studies, it was confirmed that it is a meteorite, or more precisely, a stony iron meteorite containing a large amount of silicate minerals and nickel alloys. They already know it. And one more thing. After using high-frequency atomic emission spectrometry with inductively coupled plasma, it was established that the age of the meteorite is more than 5 billion years. It may be older than Earth, but at the same time this meteorite is a fossil. However, it is doubtful that a meteorite and a fossil can exist in one piece. Kim will clarify something. They could not exist as one whole until this moment. It is a primitive life form, similar to viruses or bacteria, and was discovered in a meteorite. Traces of life found in meteorite older than Earth. If the guesses are correct, then these are fossils of extraterrestrial life. In an unimaginably distant universe, there was a planet inhabited by a creature that, after death, turned into a fossil. After some time, the planet exploded, but the fossil retained its shape despite the Big Bang. Then this fossil, which had been wandering in space for billions of years, was pulled by an asteroid, which in turn was pulled by Earth's gravity. Anyway, it fell near their base. Most fossils are sedimentary rocks. This is a well-known fact. You don't even need to be a scientist to know this. Kim believes that the meteorite received enormous energy from the explosion of the planet it was in outer space for a long time and was exposed to various substances. If you think about it, their knowledge only applies to earthly things. Kim admits that more research is needed. But one thing is clear, this rock is older than Earth, and traces of life have been found in it. Kim is confident that further research will help to clarify this. Yes, these are aliens riding a meteorite. So this is what the Americans have been trying so unsuccessfully to find. And now they have definitely missed this opportunity. As expected, all the changes start in China. Because the meteorite was discovered by the Chinese, however, most of the other discoveries also belong to them. But it was that fireman from Korea who brought it here. So all the work was done by the Koreans, and they carried out all the research. To be honest, the first person to touch the meteorite was Toshio. Everyone saw it, but he didn't even have enough strength to lift it. Let David say something. He doesn't care who touched the meteorite first. When Miss Green went looking for him, everyone just laughed, and this is undoubtedly due to her. Malin countered that it was everyone's fault. There is actually nothing wrong with what Wong says. That's why Koreans and Chinese can't work together. They start squabbling at every opportunity. According to the tripartite agreement on the management of the research station, ownership of the results of all research belongs equally to everyone. In any case, they should note that the first person to discover traces of extraterrestrial life was Malin Green. This research is Kim's. These studies and achievements belong to them all equally. They should not make a chicken coop out of it. All of them have borne economic and academic fruit. But it must be acknowledged that the first person to discover extraterrestrial life was a Chinese man. And this will go down in history. Many people told Toshio not to deal with the Chinese and Koreans. They were mean and selfish. He doesn't dare talk about Koreans like that. It's common knowledge that the Japanese are the most vile people in the world. The Japanese are the most conscientious and progressive. The Chinese and Koreans only blame them for everything out of envy. This is because the Japanese did evil things in Korea and colonized it. Without the Japanese, Koreans would still be reading the 9 Chinese classics and riding donkeys. Korea only became more modern after being colonized by Japan, and Takashi had never heard of the cruel things the Japanese did. That's because Japanese education sucks. And by the way, they were hit by 2 nuclear bombs. There was also an earthquake recently, and basically all the Japanese were exposed to radiation and went crazy. It must be fun to speak so sarcastically about someone else's tragedy. Exactly, it's very funny. Koreans have every right to say that about Japan. It is not surprising that these 2 countries are always at odds with each other. They have barbarian blood running through them. They behave like monkeys, devoid of dignity. China is called a middle-class country because the Chinese are too narrow-minded to call their country great. But China's territory is too big to call it small. They are still here and can hear everything. It's some kind of vicious circle. Maybe David can help. He doesn't care about anything. But if someone is in danger, he will have to stand up for them. David will give them what for if they continue like this. This is Captain Kevin Lee speaking. China, Korea, and Japan have equal rights, responsibilities, profits, and glory regarding the meteorite found. This is the only conclusion. So there is no need to start a senseless conflict anymore. This is not a suggestion or a request as the base captain. Kevin has the legal authority to issue such an order. Finally, they calm down their ardor. Perhaps they should tell the world about the meteorite and that creature. Of course, but a little later. This could be a big problem. If they announce to the world that they have found evidence of extraterrestrial life, everyone will be shocked, and they will be subject to strict scrutiny. And if their guesses turn out to be false, they will be faced with disappointment and criticism. No one will be able to come or leave here until the next sunrise. While the polar night lasts, they must conduct a thorough study. Everything can be announced only after sunrise in such a situation. One must be careful. That's true. Given past incidents, Sayaka would prefer to sit quietly. Kevin leaves it to Kim. The interim announcement is a big mistake. Everyone is just trying to steal his achievements. He was the one who identified the meteorite, the one who discovered traces of extraterrestrial life, and who still conducts research. They are all thieves and swindlers. This is where the insults begin. Kim wrote that he wanted them dead. After that day, Kim seemed to have been replaced. Even through the text you can feel all his bitterness. Since then, Kim has been stuck in his lab, fully focused on research. He looked through all the previously published papers to find something similar. As expected, it would be a completely new discovery, so he had to be even more careful. After much deliberation, Kim separated some of the living organisms from the meteorite, then placed them in a nutrient medium and began observing them with a microscope. Given that they have a pair of flagella, Kim suggests they were very mobile in life. If he wants to uncover their secret, he needs to cut down on time wasted that has nothing to do with research, including sleeping and eating. If Kim's eyes weren't lying, Some of the samples showed movement. Just in case, Kim increased the supply of nutrients and went to Nozomi again. She noticed that he was clearly overtired. He is not here for this reason. He is perfectly healthy. However, he should get a vitamin injection. Even if he is healthy, he looks very tired. Kim shouted at Nozomi to shut up. But he didn't mean to yell at her. He came to her with a medical question. Of course, there are a lot of biologists here, but he can't trust them. He's been exhausted from his research lately, and he's in quite a difficult situation. Nozomi asked what he was interested in. Kim said it wasn't that important. He asked what she thought the chances were that a dead organism could come back to life. If Kim talks about something like resurrection from the dead, Nozomi finds it difficult to talk about religious things. Kim doesn't mean that. He just means the death of an organism and a sudden return to life after some time. This is impossible, because he knows perfectly well what death is, only if the organism is truly dead. Some living creatures, when exposed to extreme environments, can enter suspended animation in order to survive. They appear dead, but in fact, they hibernate. For example, aquatic creatures of the tardigrade class, commonly called water bears, hibernate, which helps them survive not only heat, extreme cold, and vacuum conditions, but also radiation exposure 1,000 times higher than the norm. It seems that is how it was. Kim was just thinking out loud. There was a case in Milan at the Natural History Museum where a water bear was injected with nutrients and began to move after 120 years of hibernation. It's almost immortality. Kim understood everything. He increased the nutrient supply and visited Nozomi again, and was able to confirm his guess. If there are immortal beings on this small planet, then it is not surprising that there are certainly many more such beings in the infinite universe. If they were dormant for many years, it means that a living extraterrestrial creature has been found, not a fossil. Kim will be on par with Newton and Einstein, not to mention such trivial things as the Nobel Prize. You have to keep this a secret. He won't sleep or eat. It's a waste of time. Kim can't control his hands. They shake when he writes. Organisms have begun to move, and soon the day will come that all of humanity will celebrate as Kim Yun Day. Not only have they emerged from hibernation, but they are also dividing, and their movement using flagella has become very active. They outperform microbes in terms of movement and growth speed, but it is unclear how they will survive without an artificial environment. Where these creatures originated, their hosts were probably either enormous, or they found their own way to spread to other creatures. It seems that the cause of all the misfortunes has been established. This means that these creatures can force other creatures to attack. Those infected were very aggressive towards healthy people, but not towards each other. This means that their true desire is to expand even further, and not to be hostile. These creatures are so small that they cannot be seen with the naked eye. Kevin cannot believe that they are able to control the human brain. A friend told Larry one thing. Toxoplasma gondii is a parasite that can only reproduce in a cat's body. It is located in the tonsils of the cerebellum and brainwashes mice so that they are not afraid of cats. The final goal is a cat. When the mouse stops being afraid of it, it will be able to eat this mouse. Even if so, the sizes of a mouse and a human are completely different. When Toxoplasma gondii enters the human body, the risk of developing mental disorders increases more than twofold. To quote Kim, "If there are immortal beings on this small planet, it is not surprising that there are certainly many more immortal beings in the infinite universe." It's unclear how Kim became infected, but it's unlikely that these little devils simply bit him. Larry will continue to read his notes. Perhaps they will find answers. Her hands are shaking again. No wonder Kim can't even afford to go to bed after the interim observation. Maybe he should get some sleep, but there is almost no time for research. If he shirks, his research will be stolen. Kim drank energy drinks to stay awake. He couldn't remember the last time he ate. No, unless he wants to end his life as a pig. Once this research is published, wealth, fame, and everything else will come to him. There is no point in wasting time on food. He would be better off doing research and experimenting. He completely forgot to tidy up his nails, although that's not so important now. But if you think about it, there are bacteria under the nails, and the sample should not come into contact with Earth bacteria. In Wells's novel, The War of the Worlds, the Martians were destroyed by a common cold. Kim took the nail clippers. He fell asleep while cutting his nails. Because of this, he cut off part of the skin on his index finger. He is severely sleep-deprived, but until the study is completed, he will not be able to sleep peacefully. And this is where the recording ends. Not surprisingly, an infected person cannot focus on research, but one can guess. By chance, Kim had to study microorganisms, although he is a geologist. Due to his carelessness, the sample could have infected him through the wound on his finger. He felt hot. This would not have happened if specialists from different fields had conducted joint research. The patient is ready for transportation. The rest begin to prepare to leave. These items can save their lives. David will take it. Susumu took everything that caught his eye, but this thing was too short. Then David will take this, and Susumu can use the longer one for his own safety. It's a shame, but it's encouraging. As far as David knows, there are weapons stored in the warehouse next to the evacuation building. That's right. Hunting weapons and ammunition are stored there in case of emergency. So they have guns, but they use these stupid sticks. They cannot use this weapon. These creatures are not monsters, but infected. They are not that dangerous. They behave this way only because they are infected. If they are not dangerous, you can go out without these sticks. Now they have no choice. They will have to fight them. And when they find a cure, they will return them to normal. If you shoot at them, they will die. Nozomi can't say that. She's encountered them personally. She doesn't want to hear anything from a man who isn't even ready to return to headquarters. Let him do what he wants. Kevin can't help but agree with Nozomi, the reason being that they can't use weapons right now. To prevent misuse, the weapon box is locked with 3 security devices, and to open it, Kevin, Sayaka, and Larry must take fingerprints. But Sayaka isn't here, and given the time and security concerns, going to the warehouse is too dangerous. In any case, for now they need to focus on Operation Maylene. After that, they will return to the issue of using weapons. If there are no more questions, they should begin evacuating the wounded woman. They leave the evacuation building. Dan will mind his own business. If David were alone, he would prefer to move quickly. But they have a lot of people who are not prepared for battle, and one is still wounded, so they will try to move slowly at first, remaining unnoticed. Kevin will go first, Susumu will go behind, Van will go on the left, David on the right. Larry and Nozomi will go with the wounded one in the center. It would be better if David goes in front, but it was Wang who insisted on the operation, and he will take responsibility. Kevin understands that they are younger and better fighters than him, but he has a principle that he follows all his life. Since he is the captain, he will take all the risks. If command is the right, then taking risks is the captain's duty. But this is a battlefield, not an expedition, and if Kevin is in danger, there will be no one to lead them. If he fails the mission, all powers will automatically pass to Sayaka and Larry. Kevin knows they don't agree with him, but he asks them to listen to him. We must go. David notices something. There's something nearby. It's dark now. There's no smell or sound due to the strong wind, but David feels a slight vibration in the ground. The monsters are closer than he thought. Over there. There are only about 70 expedition members here. There can't be that many. Anything can happen now. Everything seems to be fine. They're just penguins. Perhaps they were moving towards the light to escape the cold. It is possible that penguins could become infected if bitten, but it is not known whether the virus can be transmitted to animals. They were already a third of the way there and nothing happened. There are probably infected who have wandered outside the base, but finding the group in the dark and in such a snowstorm will be difficult. Kevin suggests taking a 5-minute break in the warehouse. Here in the darkness, glowing eyes appear again. These are probably penguins, but Susumu was wrong. David is ready to defend himself. There are too many of them, and they attack one by one. At this rate, they won't last long. We must maintain order and protect the wounded. They must move quickly to the warehouse. Susumu had, of course, been told about these creatures, but he didn't think they were so dangerous. One approaches him from behind. It is Saburo. He pounces on Nozomi. She calls for help. Susumu attacks Saburo. If one of them gets bitten, it will all be over. You must do your duty. They are surrounded. Kevin didn't think there were so many infected outside the base. If they scatter, some will have a chance to survive. But there is no escape from these creatures. Kevin has a decision to make. Since monsters can't be killed, they have to get out of here. A fireball passes between them. It continues to hang in the air. This light will go out soon. We need to hurry. They managed to reach the warehouse. David just carried that gun with him all the time. He fired one test shot as he walked towards the evacuation building, apparently. The monsters were stupid, since they were attracted by any rustle. The pistol has 4 shots, so there are 2 charges left. They don't have much time. Here the monster's hand breaks the window glass. Many hands are sticking out of the window. This old warehouse hasn't been used for a long time, and the glass here isn't bulletproof. The bars won't last long. We need to get out of here. Dan requests emergency evacuation. Monsters have appeared, or rather, people are turning into monsters, and we need to send a rescue team with firearms and heavy equipment. There's no time to explain. They're about to be finished off by alien zombies. It's hard to believe, but it's true. If Dan is lying, let him be shot. He will be contacted by the captain, who will take action. They are on the verge of destruction. The monsters have almost broken into the warehouse. We can't let them in. They are trying to drive them away, but they won't be able to hold them off for long. Van will come out and become bait. If he is bitten, he can remain sane for about 3 minutes, during which time he will kill himself. Kevin can't let this happen, but if they don't hurry, Maylin will die. All lives are equally important. This is not true. The lives of Malin and Wong have completely different values. Van is about to leave. David stands in his way. He didn't understand what they were talking about, but he clearly understood what Van was going to do. If they need to sacrifice someone, they will definitely sacrifice them. But there is no need for this now. If you shoot at a high angle, the bullet will fly far enough, which will buy them time. Of course, they won't be able to get rid of everyone. There might be infected there who won't see the light of day. And Kevin understands that they are not people, so they have to make every effort. David was used to fighting with losses. Even if he works as a firefighter until his death, the number of people saved will never exceed the number of people killed. Now is not the time to tell stories. David shoots. It worked. They should break through. On the count of 3, they run. David smokes. The next moment, he rushes after the others. The monsters are right in front of them. Nozomi trips and falls. The monster is about to pounce on her. David attacks him. Monsters on all sides. We must continue to push forward. Monsters dare not underestimate them. Nozomi is being attacked again. The monster threw her into the snow. Van tries to stop him. The monster is about to bite Nozomi. David wants to help her, but he is also attacked. Larry attacks the monster that almost bit Nozomi. However, he rises. Larry hit me right in the head. The monster rushes at him. He is attacked by Nozomi. They reach the warehouse. The monsters are still chasing them. The medical center is in the same building on the first floor. They can move through the ventilation pipes, straight ahead, and once to the right. And they are at the medical station. They start to make their way through the ventilation. Larry won't go. He was bitten. But he has no symptoms yet. They need to get to the medical center. Maybe there will be a vaccine there. If Larry turns into a monster in such a tight space, there will be losses. He will remain here. They can't leave him. It's all because of Nozomi. Larry tried to save her. David asks why she thinks he saved her and why they brought her here. It's getting hot. Larry never thought he would be hot at the South Pole. They must survive. Then after death, Larry can boast about saving lives. David will definitely survive. So Larry asks you to tell his family that he is sorry he couldn't be a good husband and father, and that he loves them. David promises to pass it on. It was an honor for Larry to work with them. He takes off his outerwear. And yet he has not yet lost his mind. Then he must do everything to help the others survive. They are the ones who shouldn't be on this planet. It seems like almost everyone is infected. They can hear them. The medical center is right below them. They remove the bars. In the medical room, Kim is still tied to the table. We need to go down. The door to the medical center is open. David closes it. If the infected hear them, they will come here. Then they will definitely be finished. David must kill Kim. Nozomi will do this. If she doesn't succeed, Kim will make a lot of noise. Nozomi works at this medical center. You can trust her. It will be quiet. She takes out the injection solution. Simply put, it is a fast-acting anesthetic. Kim will be out for a while, so we can get him out of here. We need to tie him up tighter and gag him so he doesn't make any noise. It's unknown when he'll wake up. This drug is quite useful. Perhaps Nozomi has more. Psychotropic drugs should not be used without a doctor's prescription. But in this situation, it doesn't matter. Can be used if needed. We need to fill the syringes with this drug so that we can use it quickly if they are attacked. Nozomi will prepare the area for surgery. She asks Van and Susumu to slowly move Malin to the operating table. Susumu is the only one who can understand Nozomi well. The rest must be on guard and not allow the infected to break through here. Nozomi is ready for surgery. Meanwhile, those in the garage are waiting for a message or the arrival of a rescue team. Everything would be fine, but Terry is hungry. Even in such a situation, he thinks about food. There is nothing wrong with that. He is very hungry. It is high time for a snack. But they do not fast for a week or even a few days. Terry always eats whatever comes to hand. They cannot stay here for several days or a week. There is no food or water. The rescue team will arrive and they will be saved. The US base is further away than it seems. Even if they send rescuers right now, it will still take a long time. And if the weather gets worse, they won't get here at all. And they also say that there are zombies roaming outside. Nothing will change if these Americans come. The number of zombies will only increase. Takashi asks what they are discussing so seriously. Sayaka doesn't understand either. There are 5 Koreans and 2 Japanese here. And if the situation starts to worsen, the Koreans might decide to sacrifice them first. And if it's true, they won't even be able to do anything. Sayaka is a woman. And besides, her leg, which she injured after coming here, hasn't fully recovered. Takashi can't say such things without proof. They may be from different countries, but they are colleagues working towards the same goal. Even if the Koreans are really planning something like this, they cannot disobey an order. But they may not want to comply. Takashi understands perfectly well that in the absence of the captain, Sayaka has the right to take full command. This is only according to the terms of the contract. In reality, no one will obey. She will not be able to do anything to them. Hatred of the Japanese is in the blood of Koreans. Besides, the atmosphere at the base hasn't been very good lately. Koreans don't need to speak English among themselves, but if they had nothing to hide, they could speak in a language they understand. Takashi doesn't trust them too much. He would like to trust, but there is nothing wrong with keeping an eye out. I wonder what they are discussing there. They seem to be arguing, but Sayaka is the captain, and Takashi is a subordinate. He must follow orders. But the situation is still strange. Not long ago, 2 Japanese simply left, ignoring orders. Terry is sure that they just don't trust her because she's a woman. He wouldn't trust her himself, but she's a wonderful person and a great captain. This is in normal situations, but it is unknown how she will behave now. Terry asks if Bill will obey this woman in an emergency. He answers in the affirmative. But women may not even have military training, let alone the army. Their lives will be on the line. It is hardly worth obeying the orders of an untrained captain. In any case, Bill and Terry at least served. It matters. They may have a better chance of surviving. It will be much better if they, those who have undergone military training, give orders. There is no point in giving your life obeying orders from who knows who. This may make sense, but it can't be done this way. Nothing has happened yet. No need to worry so much. And the atmosphere is heating up. Even if they try their best to get out of here, it might not be enough because everyone is hostile. Here the monster's hand is pressed against the window glass. There are many of them. So that's what they were told. Sayaka doesn't know what to do. Now was not the time to sit back. She had to give them instructions. Sayaka says in Japanese that they need to run. James asks her to calm down and speak in English. Addressing everyone, Sayaka repeats that they need to run, but they can't get out of here. Terry did say that Sayaka couldn't handle it. They follow her orders. James will ask again if she is really ordering them to leave the building with steel doors and armored glass. In that case, they will stay here. However, they should arm themselves with something in case these creatures break through here. Everyone needs to find some tools to protect themselves. Stanley wants to talk to James. They thought about it and decided that he should lead the team. There is no need to even think here. It is impossible. So he's going to submit to a woman who has no idea what military training is. Gender doesn't matter. What matters is that Sayaka is the vice captain. They have to obey her orders. It's their duty. But it can't be more important than their lives. Nobody is asking them to sacrifice their lives. Now they must unite. Principles are important in a situation like this. That's what principles are for. And if Sayaka can't cope, their job is to support her and perhaps give her advice, and obediently accept command, rather than try to take it away. Then they will revolt. They want a worthy person to lead them. Takashi asks what they are talking about. Terry tells him to mind his own business. Everything is fine. James will pretend this conversation never happened. Everything will be fine. It's unlikely that the monsters will break in here. They will wait here, and then the rescue team will arrive. The monsters continue to try to break into the warehouse. One of them grabs the cable and breaks it. The lights went out. Those creatures must have hit the power lines. It's not that hard to fix. You just have to go outside. Then it's better to abandon this idea. They will sit in the dark for a while, and when the rescuers arrive, they will use flashlights to attract attention. Stanley believes that they will not last long like this. But it should be safe here. At this point, James realizes what the matter is. The warehouse was heated using electricity. Now it's like they're in a big refrigerator. Takashi asks why the lights went out. James will explain everything. Takashi decides that the electricity needs to be fixed. But to do this, he needs to go outside. They're engineers. They need to figure this out. It's their responsibility. Takashi just wants everyone to do their job. Then he should go outside and study these creatures. He is a zoologist after all. He either comes out right now or shuts up unless he wants Stanley to punch him in the face. Nozomi is ready to begin the operation. They don't have much time, and besides, she's not being assisted by a medic, and the infected could attack at any moment, making these the worst conditions for the operation. However, as a doctor, she must put the patient's life and health first. She can handle it. Susumu needs to not panic and just do what she says. Fractures of the 3rd, 5th, and 7th ribs, fracture of the fibula and loss of consciousness as a result of a fall. The patient can breathe on his own. Blood pressure is 100 to 60. Everything is not so critical. There is always hope. There is a problem with the airways on the left side, probably a thrombus or pneumothorax in the affected area. First, a chest tube should be inserted. You will need a scalpel, a clamp, and betadine. A clamp is a tool that looks like scissors. Nozomi asks to have a chest tube attached to her chest. But Susumu, of course, has no idea how to do this. Nozomi will do it herself. Everything is fine. Now she will make the incision. The pressure is dropping. Susumu thinks that in such a situation, something needs to be done urgently. Everything is under control. It happens. We need to pull ourselves together. This is just the beginning. Everything seems to have calmed down. It's going to get even colder soon. We need to come up with something and solve this problem quickly. They can sit in the car and warm up in it, because there is a car hairdryer. They can move to the evacuation zone by car instead of fiddling with the heating. There's just enough room for everyone there. James asks Sayaka's opinion about leaving by car. Sayaka agrees. There is no need to get permission from a person who doesn't understand a damn thing. James will be in charge of preparations for the shipment. The Koreans are clearly plotting against Sayaka and Takashi. You don't need to know their language. The atmosphere is enough to understand it. No matter how you look at it, Sayaka is the vice captain, but they ignore her. If Bill had known that this would happen, he would have taken care of the wheels. In advance. He asks for skid chains to be brought to him. The monsters almost broke the armored glass. They hadn't planned to use the car, but there should be enough fuel to get to the evacuation zone, and then they could refuel. They had to go now. They were almost finished with the preparations. James tells everyone to get in the car. This Jap will just shirk, but she's the boss. Here the glass breaks. Monsters climb through the window. There are 2 wheels left. They won't make it in time. They need to get in the car. Bill will lead. Someone has to open the doors. Terry will handle this. The doors are opening. Immediately, monsters enter the garage. Terry tells us to start the car quickly. Bill steps on the gas. The car hits the monster. There are still a whole bunch of them there. Not only did Terry not die, but he also helped. The monsters rush towards the car. Bill will personally feed them to Takashi if he tries to abandon someone again. I really want to beat the crap out of him. They'll deal with this later, but first we need to get out of here. The car could break down at any moment. She drives out of the garage, knocking down monsters. Others run after them, but they are clearly not faster than a car. There is a flock of penguins on the way. Stanley suggests just driving over them. There are too many of them. There is a high probability that they can get stuck between the wheels. So someone has to go out and disperse these penguins, and they themselves know who. For some reason, everyone is looking at Takashi. The engineers have done their job, and now they have to deal with the animals. Sending a zoologist there is the right decision. Besides, those monsters are not nearby. It is not so dangerous there now. Takashi knows more about penguins than they do. He can be trusted with this, so we need to get them out of the way. Let him try to cope as quickly as possible before the monsters get to them. Takashi will be in trouble if he encounters these creatures. He hates to obey the Koreans, but he is the only one who knows about the animals of the South Pole. Takashi tries to drive away the penguins. It's strange why they crowd there. It looks like there's a person there. The penguins are infected. Takashi gets scared, but then he tries to drive them away again. Penguins should not be aggressive towards people. They are attacking. Takashi calls for help. They should help him, but they can't. Looks like the penguins ate that monster. Most of them have already turned into monsters, and the rest will suffer the same fate. There are more than 100 of them here. Sayaka must give the order, but she has no idea what to do. They have to ram them and get to the evacuation zone as quickly as possible. They have no other choice. Takashi will have to quit. Sayaka agrees. The car starts moving, knocking down the penguins. Takashi continues to call for help. Sayaka tries not to hear his screams. It's not her fault. The car is surrounded by a flock of penguins. Looks like they're attacking. The penguins actually rushed towards the car. One of them jumped on the wheel and was crushed. As a result, the car began to skid to the side. She collapsed on her side. Penguins are approaching the window. Bill is safe and will live unless he is eaten. Meanwhile, Takashi gets up. He turned into a monster. Now the penguins don't attack him. On the contrary, Takashi attacks them. Stanley is stuck. They dared to abandon Takashi. They still don't come, and he can't wait to kill. He rushes to the car. Takashi went crazy. If he wants to eat, let him eat the penguin. He's probably angry that he was abandoned. Takashi breaks the glass and grabs James. He didn't think that this weakling had so much strength. James manages to escape. Takashi is thrown out of the car. However, he has no intention of leaving. The penguins surrounded the car. Some climbed onto it. We need to leave. They won't last long like this. We'll have to rely on weapons and overalls, although the penguins will still cause trouble. There is no other way out. Meanwhile, Nozomi continues to operate on Malin. She asks for a laser scalpel, then a retractor, the kind that looks like scissors. Nozomi will spread the ribs to get a better look at the lung. Kevin doesn't want to rush her, but he's curious to see how far she's come. She just started and asks not to ask her such questions. It's distracting. Kevin apologizes. There are some sounds coming from behind the door. There are 2 of them. It's not a problem to deal with them, but the noise will bring the others running. Sounds are removed. They left. It is unknown how long the operation will last. Guarding the door is the best solution. Kevin agrees. David asks to be allowed to act alone. Now it is his turn to hunt. Kevin asks why alone. David needs room to maneuver, so his chances of success are higher. Since the first outbreak, they have encountered many infected, but have eliminated no more than 10, whose heads they smashed. The enemy does not surpass them in strength, but they have been on the brink of death more than once. They had other priorities. First, they had to evacuate everyone, then get the patient to the operating room. And each time he encountered the enemy, David could not fight at full strength. Their first priority was to avoid infection. All they could do was run and defend themselves. Now the situation is at a stalemate. An operation is underway. And until it is completed, they have no choice but to hang around here and guard the door. But when a crowd of infected comes here, they are finished. The best defense is a good offense. They will destroy enemies one by one. Kevin caught on to his train of thought. The best defense was to take the initiative. It is better to fight 60 times one-on-one than once against 60. The monster's strength and endurance are off the charts, but their intelligence is lacking. If he were to take care of protection from bites, David would prefer to face them rather than a terrorist group armed to the teeth. Kevin and Van will protect the others, but it is easier for David to act alone. They don't have many options, but this mission is in jeopardy. Van is against. Now they need to ensure Miss Green's safety. They can't lose a third of their defensive force. David will take the hit. He will be the bait. Then they will focus on him. Besides, he was asking the captain, not Van. He doesn't care. He won't allow it. If he has to, he will stop David by force. It was high time to show Van the difference between them. Van pounces on David. He dodges his blow. They continue to fight. Kevin tells you to stop. David can act, but let him not overdo it. He's ready. There is only one monster walking down the corridor. David calls out to him. When the monster turns around, David attacks it. One is ready. A second one is approaching from behind. David deals with him too. Those stuck in the car have no choice but to leave. Sayaka refuses to go. It's safer here. She still can't come to her senses. Because of her, they will all die. We have to leave. They get out of the car. Takashi is chasing them. Damn birds, there's a whole horde of them here. Terry fights off the penguins. Suddenly he notices that the others have disappeared somewhere. You can't see a thing, Terry is trying to shout to his comrades. Here a penguin attacks him. However, he is killed before he can bite through the skin. Terry wasn't bitten. This penguin only tore his jacket. What a shame. Bill really wanted to see his zombie face. Terry kills a penguin that was about to attack Bill from behind. Now Terry has the same problem. Enough of the jokes. Time to run away. Terry has no idea where to run. He doesn't even know where they are now. You have to run to where the light of the lanterns is visible. There are streetlights straight ahead. You need to follow the light. James said he was in great shape, but he was getting on in years. Ben comes to the rescue. He sees some lights, so they are heading that way. It looks like James was talking about them, but Ben is not sure that they are heading that way. He attacks the penguin before it can attack him. Here comes Stanley. They grabbed him a couple of times, but luckily his jumpsuit saved him. Takashi approaches from behind. He pounces on Stanley and bites him. The penguins are also approaching him. Stanley will detain Takashi and the rest will run. There is no need to devalue his sacrifice. We need to run to those lanterns. It looks like they've gotten away from the monsters. This is the headquarters. The evacuation building is on the other side. Bill suggests going to headquarters. There may be monsters inside and a horde of penguins outside. You just have to go in. There are plenty of secluded corners, and there is also a dining room. They come in. David continues to fight monsters. He killed 5. Another. There are far more infected than he expected, and it looks like the cleanup will take a long time. In the evacuation building, Dan drinks and eats snacks. This is life. A lot of time has passed. Dan has filled his belly. It's time to sleep. There should be a sleeping bag around here somewhere. He goes to bed. They are clearly having a hard time there, and here he is crushing the pillow. On the other hand, he has done his part of the work, so he has the right to rest. There's someone knocking at the door. This is James. Their jackets were torn, they were bitten. A horde of monsters is chasing them. Dan can't take their word for it. If they don't call in 3 minutes, he'll open the door. They don't have that much time. They will go to feed the penguins. Dan thought that only people change. James asks to call Captain Lee. He will speak with him. He is not here. If Ben survives, he will feed Dan to the penguins himself. We need to find another shelter, other warehouses. They will check if there is a car there. They must remain calm. There is always a way out. Near the evacuation building, they find a staircase. Ben suggests that James go first. He will be nice to the girls, let him climb first, and then he will pull James up. He almost climbed onto the roof. Then Takashi grabs him by the leg. Ben pulls with all his might. He manages to drag Bill to the roof before Takashi grabs him. Now we need to raise the ladder. For now, they have lost contact with the monsters. What a blessing that penguins don't fly. Takashi pulled the boot off James's foot in this weather. Frostbite sets in within about 30 minutes. You can wrap your leg with a hat. This will help you stretch it out for a while. Dan looks out the window. These penguins are truly monsters. It's not that easy to get here. The evacuation building is designed to withstand even a bombing. There is no food here. Ben is bony and tasteless. The penguins begin to build a living ladder. The first one jumps onto the roof. Ben attacks him. The penguins continue jumping onto the roof. James will back him up. The two of them begin to fight off the penguins. Terry hopes there's no one at headquarters. First, they will replenish their supplies. This monster can suddenly resurrect. It seems to be clean here. We need to look around. Bill finds food. It's unknown when the next time you'll be able to eat will be. He will take everything. Knives are much more useful than sticks. That's true, but these knives are a bit short. No DIY project can be completed without electrical tape. Just what I needed. We collected provisions, made weapons. Now it doesn't matter where to go. The main thing is that it's safe there. Kevin and Van hear footsteps. Someone is approaching. There are two of them. Van thinks they are infected. But it's actually Bill and Terry. They passed by. Osteosynthesis was successful, blood pressure is normal. All that remains is to put stitches on the lung, and you can sew it up. That's not all. I still need to put a plaster cast on my leg. Susumu is holding up well. No need to sigh like that. Nozomi understands that it's hard for him. But there's not much time left. The dining room and conference room are not suitable. They are too dangerous. There is a walk-through courtyard there. You can go to Bill's room. They'll barricade themselves in and take a little rest. To do this, they need to climb the stairs. Who knows what surprise awaits them there. So far they've been lucky. They have weapons. But if they meet a monster, it won't be good for him. They are climbing the stairs. Bill doesn't see anyone. He said they were lucky today. Monsters appear immediately. David hears the sound of footsteps. The infected don't run until they spot someone alive, which means there are survivors left in the building, and they are now being chased. Terry decides to hide in his room. It's only a matter of time before the monsters knock down the door. It needs to be barricaded. But the monster breaks down the door faster than they can do anything. You can't take Bill with your bare hands. The monster doesn't have time to burst into the room. This was the 8th. David attacks the rest. 9th. 10th. In the end, he laid down 11. David enters the room where Bill and Terry are hiding. He can't imagine how happy they are to see him. They weren't bitten. Bill swears they're all right. David asks why they are still here. Bill explains what happened. So penguins are infected too. Then David doesn't have much time, maybe an hour or two at most. If the frost subsides a little, the penguins will instinctively go out to sea. They know that the infected are resistant to frost, so it would not be surprising if they went out to sea right now. And as soon as the penguin is eaten by a predator, it will become infected, and so on down the chain. The entire planet will be infected through the ocean. An hour or two is the time it takes to catch and kill them. Every single one. This is something from the realm of fantasy. There are hundreds of them. Nobody said it would be easy. Nothing is impossible, but their help will be needed. Bill's in, but if they screw up, it's the end of all life. David believes Sayaka is dead. Bill can neither confirm nor deny this, but it's more likely yes than no. Their first task is to deliver Sayaka to the headquarters medical center by any means necessary if she is dead. They must bring the thumb of her right hand. To obtain the firearm, the fingerprints of Kevin, Sayaka, and Larry are required. David needs to clear the building. Then he will report to the captain and prepare for the next step. They meet on the first floor in the medical center in half an hour. And one more thing. The infected react to light. This will distract their attention and help buy time. They have one charge. This is a powerful anesthetic. David doesn't know the exact composition, but it knocks out even the infected for about 5 seconds. An ice axe would be enough for David. Bill and Terry have something for him. Terry doesn't know exactly what this stuff is made of, but it's delicious and satisfies hunger in 5 seconds. Although David is a master of his craft, he must be careful. If he becomes infected, it will surely be the end of all living things. This will not happen. Serious guys make serious faces, but Terry is no slouch either. They are a defensive force. With such forces, you don't even need enemies. They're just two blockheads. The only thing Bill was good at defending was the goal from the ball in gym class. He'll have to play. He'll definitely beat Terry. 5 are approaching. Time is running out. We have to go straight ahead. This is the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. Here comes Larry. He had a hard time. He fought to the last, until he lost his mind. It was a great honor for David to work with him. He will be able to rest soon. David is ready to attack Larry. He dodges the blows. Apparently, when infected, his fighting skills are not lost. He is clearly superior to the others. David hides behind the wall. At the right moment, he rushes towards Larry. His finger needs to be cut off. Larry continues to resist. But in the end, David put him down. He is the 16th. David lights a cigarette. We need to get back to the car. Either Sayaka is there, or we'll have to look for her, fending off the penguins along the way. Before you go, it's worth using your head. Terry suggests going to the garage and taking the car, and at the same time they will see what they can arm themselves with. This will save them time and effort and increase their chances of survival. It's strange when Terry managed to get smarter. He is like an unread book. Bill knew there were a lot of zombies there. It seems they don't eat anyone. It's a pity David isn't with them. But this crowd is too much for him. Terry is wrong. He's just the thing for her. He's a monster himself. Bill watched him practice. You just need to get through. They'll get to the garage, and things will be easier there. You have to try not to think about how many of them there are. The hunter's main weapon is his eyes, nose, and ears. They won't even notice them. It's dark here. Visibility is almost zero, and a strong wind carries away the smell and drowns out the noise the blizzard will play into their hands. But zombies are stronger than people, and it's possible that their senses have become heightened. When they attacked, it was either bright, like in a building, or noisy, when they attacked a car, which, moreover, was lit up like a Christmas tree. If you slip by quietly, they won't even notice them. They're not reacting now, even though Bill and Terry are right next to them. Even chatting, even heightened senses have a limit. You have to be as quiet as a mouse, and they won't be caught. But there's nowhere to even hide here. They crawled on their bellies, like in the army. But they're at the South Pole. Terry will freeze to death before he gets eaten. Well, let the world end just because someone is afraid of freezing their balls off if they don't crawl. They'll have their own cauldron in hell. It's colder here than Santa's butt. They are crawling. Terry's mother will never see her grandchildren. They managed to reach the warehouse. With such a beauty, even David is not needed. It's too early to rejoice. The light is on, which means the charge is less than 20%. The problem is that it's unclear exactly how much is left, maybe 1%. And besides, it's noisy. If you turn it on, you'll collect all the zombies in the area. Some idiot doesn't know the main rule: charge the tool after use. But this thing is heavy and useless. Terry will still take it, even if it's not for long, but it might come in handy. There are inverters in the cars, you can charge it there. She's still a heavyweight. Bill takes care of Terry. With such a burden, he will drag himself along. And when the zombies attack, he will become their snack, and Bill will have time to escape. You can't swing such a heavy hammer for long. This is a great weapon, the best one you can imagine. But he's not here to leave empty-handed. Of course not. Terry is armed to the teeth. The radio is a topic. It should also be charged. Terry notices the backpack. You can upload everything here. Done. 12 minutes have passed. Bill hopes the garage is clean. Those devils broke in then. But there is no one there to eat, so they probably left. In any case, we must hurry. There is no one in sight in the garage. Terry turns on the flashlight. A monster appears immediately. He pounces on Bill. Terry uses a homemade weapon. However, the monster didn't even flinch. Perhaps it was time to get out the saw. Here Terry remembers about the anesthetic. He injects it into the monster. Bill thought he was going to die. He'll fill the tank with fuel, and Terry will put on the chains. It's worth taking some kerosene. They are ready to go. Meanwhile, James and Ben continue to fight off the penguins. There is no end to them. James can no longer feel his legs. Frostbite has set in. At this rate, he won't last long. Bill and Terry find the car. Soon they will see if Sayaka is there, or if she has become a zombie and is wandering around the area. Terry hopes that he won't have to spend a lot of time searching. Hope is good, but the reality is much more prosaic. There are no penguins nearby, so I need to look around. They approach the car. Sayaka inside. It doesn't look like she was bitten. She was lucky to escape unharmed from such an attack. Bill calls out to her. No reaction. Maybe she froze to death. Her face is cold, and when infected, her body temperature rises sharply, which means Sayaka died before she became infected. But she's breathing. She's just passed out. We need to move her to their car and turn on the heater. They put Sayaka in the back seat, and yet it's strange. There was a whole flock of penguins, and they all disappeared somewhere. Nothing strange. We should be happy. Their tracks lead behind the old man's group. Terry thinks they might be in the evacuation building, but perhaps they are still being chased and need help. They can also use coffee grounds to read fortunes. They must deliver Sayaka to headquarters. Their mission is to save people and the planet, and there is still time. Bill wants to check. He doesn't understand the point of saving the planet at all, but he's in charge, so let him do what he wants. They will fit in on time. There is no more strength. This is the end. If Ben becomes a zombie, the first thing he will do is eat Dan. Here a car appears. Now she attracts the penguins' attention. Bill knew James and Ben were in danger. There aren't enough circular saws for everyone, but maybe we won't have to fight. I have an idea. Bill asks Terry to hold the wheel. He takes out a light gun. The Blue Ranger is ready for battle. He shoots. It's time to go down. Penguins rush at the car. The Yellow Ranger is ready for battle. James and Ben need to hurry to the car. Terry will cover them. He starts to use the saw. The baby didn't let us down. James and Ben are already in the car. It's time for Terry to get in too. Bill asks if there are any more survivors nearby. Ben says Dan is in the evacuation building, but he doesn't open the door to anyone. James will tell you what's going on along the way. We need to take care of Sayaka. They go to headquarters. It's safe now. There's another monster operating there, and luckily, it's on their side. The apparent threat has been eliminated. There is a possibility that there are still undetected infected, but the allotted time is running out. It is time to report to the captain. Nozomi put a cast on Mei Ling's leg. Done, we can turn off the ventilator. They need to do a spontaneous breathing test. All that's left is to observe and check. They need to make sure their job is done. Susumu was holding up well. It's hard to believe that this is his first time in an operating room. Nozomi tells Kevin that they are finished. Given the circumstances, she can't say everything went perfectly. But Mei Ling received the treatment she needed. It's hard to say when she will wake up. She's been unconscious for too long. She may wake up in half an hour, or she may not wake up. Now everything depends on her. She is a young, healthy woman and should be able to cope. It is better to stay here until the patient comes to, although it cannot be said that it is safe here. Now you can. Mission accomplished. David is covered in blood. Van thinks he needs to be checked. But he is not one of those who would put everyone in danger. He would rather kill himself. And Van knows this very well. There was no time for a full inspection, but the building was cleared. There is one issue that needs to be discussed urgently. David will get to the point. The entire planet is in danger. He explains the situation. So, we need to eliminate all the penguins before they go out to sea. And we also need to make sure that all infected life forms are destroyed. It's hard to explain what the plan is. We need to wait for the group with Sayaka. They should be back soon. But these two may not return, or return without Sayaka. Then all that remains is to stick together and try to survive. Here comes Bill knocking. Fortunately, Plan B is off the table for now. They are just in time. Sayaka needs help. She was stuck in the car, and now she's unconscious. She's breathing, and it looks like they didn't have time to bite her. This is encouraging. Apparently she is in shock and hypothermia. She needs to be warmed up, so she will come to consciousness. We need to wake her up quickly. They need her. Nozomi doesn't understand how one can be so heartless. It's time to wake up. David just cracked a bunch of skulls. Things are tough here for everyone. Reality is cruel. Nozomi will try. Sayaka should wake up as soon as she warms up. James has severe frostbite. Nozomi tells Susumu to bring hot water quickly. It's uncomfortable to walk, but James doesn't feel anything. There is obvious soft tissue necrosis at best. He will not be able to walk for several days at worst. He will have to have an amputation. First, you need to restore your body temperature by placing your foot in cool water. Susumu brings a basin of water. Once the leg begins to warm up, James will feel severe pain. Only then can treatment begin. Nozomi will take care of the injured. Kevin asks how many people are needed. Now she can handle it herself. Then Kevin leaves them to her and waits for the rest at the meeting. He hopes that everyone understands the seriousness of the situation. Then let David let them in on his plan. All infected have one thing in common. They react to light, so the number of penguins doesn't matter. If they create a bright enough light source, they can gather everyone in one place. This matches what they know. Luckily, there is a gas storage facility under the base. Their task is to illuminate the base and lure all the penguins to the roof. They have to create an explosion. With their composition and firepower, the choice is limited. Terry asks David in Korean if he is sure about his decision. To avoid misunderstandings, it is better to speak in English. This is all great, but for a big explosion, you need fire. Kevin will take care of that. You won't have to sacrifice anyone. The base has enough materials to create a primitive time bomb. It won't be very powerful, but if you make several and place them around the perimeter, the explosion will be quite impressive. Then it's decided. The overall picture is clear. Now it's time to move on to the details. The first task is to arm yourself. To carry out the plan, firearms and ammunition are needed, and Kevin and Sayaka will be assigned to this mission. So David wants to separate them. It would be better to stick together. Each stage will involve a minimum number of people. The rest must rest. The most important thing in the mission is to monitor your condition. In case of failure of one group, they will have a chance to try again. And here is Larry's gift. Terry doubts the scanner will detect a severed finger. There is an optical scanner installed there. The main thing is that the fingerprint pattern is not damaged. Kevin found out about this during registration. It takes 2 people to open the box, but to carry it you will need help. It is possible. David asks who knows how to make homemade bombs. Bill didn't have such a hobby. Terry was a dunce in chemistry. Then David will take care of the bombs. Ben can help with weapons. He's frozen to the bone. Let him warm up. Terry is in on it too. Susumu was warm the whole time, so he'll go with them. He will stay here with Bill, Terry, and Ben. They need to recuperate. And Van will go with Kevin. If the plan fails, the people he serves will have no future, and Kevin doesn't ask what's more important. This is an order. Let Van prove his worth. Kevin asks about Sayaka's condition. Nozomi would recommend her rest, but apparently we need to wake her up. They have no other choice. Sayaka sees monsters that are about to attack her. They are very close, and one of them suddenly starts talking to her. She hears Nozomi's voice trying to wake her up. She calls Sayaka by name. She finally wakes up. She doesn't seem to be okay. Sayaka thinks she's dead. She finally recognizes Nozomi. Unfortunately, it was not a dream. The base is destroyed. Most of the expedition has turned into monsters. This is reality. The surviving participants rescued Sayaka and brought her here. Kevin knows it's hard to understand, but they need her. It's urgent. Every minute counts. We need to go. Kevin will fill her in on the matter along the way. Sayaka agrees. Bill and Terry found a radio in the warehouse. The charge is not 100%, but better than nothing. There are 6 radios in total, 3 per group, and 3 will stay here. They are more useful than ever. Van acknowledges the need for radios, but they could provoke the infected. This means they need to be kept off but turned on every 10 minutes to report the situation if they deem the situation unsafe. They won't turn on the radio if an emergency is needed. They'll send an unscheduled message. All they can do is wait for the signal. There is no more important information, but there is something better. It's no good saving the world on an empty stomach. Kevin was already getting hungry. David will focus on making bombs. He won't be able to protect them, so they will stand guard in turns, while the rest should try to sleep. In case of emergency, please notify immediately. David will be in touch. Sleeping when everyone else is busy is kind of piggish. They could help him with the bombs. It would be better for him to do everything himself. His task was to conserve his strength, so that if necessary they could give it their all. Then they would sleep, and let David return safe and sound. He will come back. The first thing he will do is walk around the perimeter and collect materials along the way. He will be able to find other survivors or infected. Kevin, Van, and Sayaka get into the car. The situation has worsened. The whole world is under threat. But they don't lose hope. Sayaka is very ashamed. As the vice captain, she should be more resilient. But she caused so many problems. There is no need to blame yourself. No one was ready for this. The main thing is that now she is with them. Be that as it may, she is worried. Wherever penguins gather, there are always animals that follow them. These are skuas. The snowstorm hasn't abated for a long time. Food is scarce, and the birds won't disdain even carrion. They will definitely show up. If the skuas also become infected, we will have to fear an attack from the air. It's getting more and more dangerous. And yet, birds may not be able to fly in such a strong snowstorm. In strong winds at high altitudes, it will be difficult for them. But given their hunger and increased physical capabilities during infection, flying at low altitudes will not be difficult for them. This is enough to kill them. Panic is not in their favor right now. They need to somehow calm Sayaka down. Kevin says it's just birds. They can't let fear take over. Then a gamekeeper throws himself into the windshield. It breaks. They are here. The flock approaches the car. We need to turn off the headlights. Van remembers the way to the warehouse. But simply turning off the lights is not enough to get rid of them. They are finished. They will all die. I need to pull myself together. Everything will be fine as long as Sayaka keeps her mind clear. Their overalls are too strong for beaks and claws. With them is Van, the best bodyguard on the continent. He is a pro in his field. They won't let the birds get to them. Kevin already has a plan. But in reality, he doesn't have any plan. They drive up. Van waits for his instructions. The infected react to sound the same way as to light. And while the car is moving, they cannot hide, although there is one idea. Kevin tells me to turn the headlights on brighter. He's completely serious. They'll jump out when the birds are distracted. The van turns on its headlights. Birds rush towards the car. Sayaka can't. It's dangerous there. She stays here. Kevin is the best researcher in China and has gotten into worse troubles. He will not leave Sayaka and promises that they will survive. Van is waiting for the command. On the count of 3, they run out of the car. There are not only skuas nearby, but also penguins. We need to leave before they are noticed. Van asks if Kevin has really been in worse situations than this, and he says that if it were true, they would have had a different captain. He just helped them gain courage. They are here. Van and Sayaka will search for weapons and ammunition, and Kevin will report on the situation. They are there are no casualties, but they lost their car and will need transport. There is a car. They will send it to them. It will take about 15 minutes. You have to be careful of skuas. The weapons are here, and the ammunition too. Van will be for Larry. They place their fingers on the scanner. The box opens. Double-barreled shotgun, 2 shots per charge. This is good for hunting, but not against hundreds of monsters. I need to check the cartridges. There is both buckshot and shot here. These are cartridges when a gun fires. It is not bullets that fly out. But metal ball shot is small balls, and buckshot is large. That is, the pellets are weaker, but their area of destruction is wider, while the buckshot is more powerful, but the area of destruction is narrower. They need both. Shot for the skuas, buckshot for the penguins. Sayaka can't shoot. Everything is simple here. You need to pull the lever and lower the barrel down. Insert 2 cartridges and close the barrel until it clicks. Unlike an automatic rifle, the trigger has 2 guards, 1 for each barrel. You need to press the butt to your shoulder. Align the front sight with the rear sight and pull the trigger. After 2 shots, you need to open the barrel again, replace the empty cartridges, and repeat. Sayaka understands everything, but she is not sure that she can repeat it in a real fight. It's okay. Kevin was nervous too when he shot for the first time, even though he was aiming at pots and not monsters. He and Van are experienced marksmen, but they only have 2 shots at their disposal. They need to increase their reload speed. There are 3 people in their group. They will distribute 4 units per group, 1 each to Kevin and Van, and Sayaka will reload the other 2. It won't compare to the machine gun in speed, but less time will be lost. Sayaka can handle it. She's glad that even someone like her can be useful. Kevin is counting on her. She needs to stay here and practice. We need to bring the rest. The car will be there in 15 minutes. 15 minutes have passed. Kevin is getting in touch. He asks if the transport is ready. They went to the scene, but a problem arose. There are too many penguins and skuas here. Movement is possible, but you can't park in style or carry weapons. You can come over. Kevin's group will take care of the birds. We need to buy time so they can get in and load up. Van must be careful and remember that he has a firearm in his hands. You need to load with shot until the car appears, then switch to buckshot. And one more thing, don't be afraid, they will win. Now it's their turn to hunt. Kevin and Van shoot penguins. Skuas are approaching from above. Kevin shoots at them. His penguins are on the left. Van is dealing with the penguins on the right. Sayaka thought it would be much worse, the pellets flying apart, hitting 5 or 6 birds at a time. She loads the gun once again. Don't get distracted by the penguins, then they will survive. So far everything is going smoothly, the car is almost there. Kevin orders the buckshot loaded. He shoots at penguins, Van at seagulls. Van needs some shot. Sayaka tries not to confuse buckshot for Kevin and pellets for Van. The skua rushes straight towards him. Van shoots him. We must not let our guard down. The attack is coming from all sides. They won't last long. A car appears. It will work. Everything will work for a genius. Terry throws something glowing at the birds. Zombies react to light and sound. Each room has a Bluetooth speaker. You can make bait. They will turn on the backlight for a double effect, but the charge will last for several hours. If the birds are having a disco, they will not be able to be lured into the gas storage. They will limit the time, upload a couple of songs for about 5 minutes. The column falls into the snow. 2 more fall after her. Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and Motorhead for starters. Birds rush towards light and sound. Bill and Terry are awaiting instructions. Let them load everything into the car. They will cover for them. Bill and Terry load weapons and ammunition. Now we have to leave. A skua approaches Bill. Wong yells at him in Chinese to duck. Bill didn't understand. Van repeats in English. He shoots the skua and hits Bill. Get in the car now. Kevin will drive. They are coming. The Korean couldn't understand what Wong said in Chinese. He said that's how the circumstances worked out. After all, he saved Bill's life. When they arrive, he will ask Nozomi to patch him up. It really hurts. But there was no wound. Only the jacket was caught. I wonder what hurts there. He really felt it. It was probably phantom pain. Damn malingerer, he wasn't even scratched. It's time for them to stop chatting in Korean and switch to English. It's time to contact headquarters. They are coming back. Everyone is alive and well. The mission was successfully completed. They are on their way back. No more questions. Bill really thought he was hurt. Ben tells Nozomi that James has fallen asleep. It was unbearable to endure such pain. Nozomi applied frostbite ointment and gave him a painkiller with a sleeping pill. Under normal conditions, with long-term therapy, he has a good chance of a full recovery. But at this time, Nozomi cannot give any guarantees. In movies, characters with frostbite usually have their fingers cut off. If amputation is the only chance for salvation, then this is not the worst option. We need to see how his body behaves. They did everything they could. Bill and Terry will bring the guns, and Kevin and Van will keep watch. We still need to call the others to help. The sick and weak go for help. The strong and healthy carry boxes. Terry believes that Bill just imagined it, and now he should go get help. They successfully completed the first task. All because everyone has done their job well. They will take a 5-minute break and move on to the next step. Then Susumu runs in and asks to look at something. Kim woke up. Apparently they have to get rid of him. Now they have weapons. There will be no problems. Let them provide it to Van. Nozomi asks him not to shoot. Kim is the only infected they've managed to neutralize. He's their key to the mystery, and a great asset to science. They can tie him up, shackle him, feed him all the sedatives they have, but they can't kill him. Ben doesn't agree. There's not a shred of humanity left in him. He and his kind will finish them off without blinking an eye. Ben asks to let him deal with Kim. If they are careful, no one will get hurt. They have it under control. No one would be harmed if he ended up in a petri dish. Both Ben and Nozomi are right. They won't kill Kim for now. If they get out of here, he will serve as proof of what happened. Perhaps the bodies and CCTV footage will be enough. But it's worth preparing for any accusations. Dan looks out the window. There are penguins wandering around. Dan is hiding. Although this building is as reliable as a Swiss watch, the US base is contacting. The rescue team just headed towards them. They are armed. If the monsters exist, they will be dealt with quickly. But if it is a lie, they will be held accountable. It's hard to say how long to wait for them. It depends on the weather conditions. They will contact them. With this weather, they will arrive in 6 or 7 hours. There is time to sleep, but we need to somehow inform the others. Dan will use the speakerphone. Urgent message: a rescue base has left the American station. They are armed, so there is nothing to worry about. You can get back to your business. Dan is a bastard. Terry would never have thought he could do that to James and Ben. This is his true nature. Be that as it may, the news is good. They will be rescued soon. Terry thinks that this is debatable. If the rescuers are bitten, there will be more problems. Dan said they were armed. I wonder if an armed person would be able to shoot if he got infected. It's unlikely. They instantly become dull. Even if the stars align and he pulls the trigger, aiming requires thought. David appears. No one else will get infected. Bill would like the same confidence. If Terry remembers correctly, it's a rice cooker. And if David gets hungry, they have a full hot bar. This is the bomb. The so-called pressure cooker bomb, quick to assemble and with high explosive power, is a favorite among terrorists. But now it will help save the planet. Now David will explain the principle of operation. The shell can be anything. But the good thing about a pressure cooker is that it can withstand high pressure if everything is done correctly. It will be as powerful as a grenade. David took some items from the lab. He describes in detail the making of a homemade bomb. Finally, to set it into action, a timer is set. You can use an analog clock or a smartphone, but a ready-made built-in timer is much more reliable. Analog clocks are difficult to set manually to the same time, and this can lead to an asynchronous explosion. The timing will be set so that they explode simultaneously when all the infected are gathered together. No questions. David explained everything very clearly. First, we need to make a few more bombs. David has already collected the materials. He needs 3 people. If 4 people each assemble 3 bombs, there will be 12 of them, including the sample, which is enough to blow up not only the warehouse, but everything around it. Bill, Terry, and Ben will go on this mission. And Susumu will turn off all the light sources. It's time to lure the monsters into a trap. The lights are turned off using the main computer on the 4th floor. The building is cleared. Susumu can handle it alone. But just in case, let him take a weapon and a radio. Kevin asks if Susumu has shot before. He says he has a couple of times, so he doesn't need a crash course. A double-barreled shotgun is not the best option, but it is not the worst either. A machine gun would be preferable. David asks if Nozomi has any hip bags. She says there are several medicine bags. It's time to go hunting. All the materials are in the kitchen. Susumu wants to go too. The weapon must be loaded in advance. Susumu does this with obvious hesitation. He might shoot by accident, but that never even crossed his mind. Kevin asks if he's okay. He just hasn't practiced for a long time. Everything will be fine. Kevin is a little worried that if he goes with Susumu, he will perceive it as a lack of trust. Although the task is not difficult, he can handle it. Let him come back soon. David said he eliminated everyone. He actually smashed their heads. The sight of it alone was unsettling. I wish I could finish this quickly and come back. Here Susumu realizes that the computer is broken. The keyboard is lying on the floor. Trying to do anything on the computer is useless. Susumu returns and Kevin asks why he didn't turn off the light. The main computer is broken. Susumu tried everything. Sayaka suggests that there might be a connection problem, or the problem is with the device itself. You can remove the hard drive and connect it to another computer. The computer can't be repaired, so another method is needed. You'll have to do everything manually. There's a way to avoid running around the entire base looking for switches. There's a transformer station in the eastern part of the headquarters, and you can turn off the power to the entire base from there. There's one problem: they'll lose the heating, not to mention the fact that electricity is vital for intensive care patients. So they'll cut off power to everything except the gas storage facility and the 1st floor, and turn off the lights on that floor using the switches. But the evacuation building is equipped with its own generator, and it can't be turned off through the transformer. Someone has to go to Dan and tell him to turn off the lights. He can contact them, but they have no feedback. Van wants to see Sayaka off. She was one of the keys to the weapons box. She no longer has any urgent tasks. Besides, other than the injured, Sayaka is the only one who is unable to carry out difficult tasks. So it is better to send her as a negotiator. And it's time for Dan to get his ass out on the street instead of a fragile woman. This is logical. They still have a lot to do. The offer is quite reasonable, but Van must promise that he will not put his feelings above the mission. Van isn't sure he understood Kevin correctly. There's no need to pretend. He understood everything perfectly well. They are not in a situation to give in to emotions. Van says he understands. Kevin asks what exactly. Van won't raise his hand against Dan. Kevin believes that he is a man of his word. Perhaps Sayaka could take over as a communications officer and head to the evacuation center. She can do it, but she's not comfortable with others risking their lives, unlike her. Even though she's the leader of the national expedition, Kevin says her role is no less important. Kevin should grab a couple of radios, one for himself and one for the evacuation building. Susumu will go to the transformer with Kevin, but he was supposed to do it, so he can handle it himself. When Kevin let him go alone, he was sure of his safety. But now they were going outside, no objections were accepted. Due to the redistribution of duties, shooters will have to reload their weapons themselves, try to avoid skirmishes with the infected, and shoot only in case of emergency. If there are no questions, then they begin. They need to finish before the bombs are ready. They will be back soon. Bill asks where David learned to make bombs. He says he's in the military. The expedition had a rigorous selection process, and even the engineering aces sent to Antarctica couldn't make bombs out of a pressure cooker. But that's far from a key skill, and everything is simple. Bill asks where they teach such skills. David asks in response why he needs it. How long have they been sharing shelter in this godforsaken freezer, and David hasn't said a word about himself. There's time. You can listen. It won't slow down the work. The Korean army hasn't seen real combat for a long time. It's unlikely that an ordinary soldier would be able to do this. De jure, he served in the Korean Air Force, but de facto he was a rental item. If you need someone, you rent them. David can't say anything more specific, and what he went through is classified information. If he had said this yesterday, Terry would have thought he had watched too much James Bond. But now it doesn't seem that way. I need to work. Time is running out. David wanted to leave the army. He said the job was beyond his abilities. The commander had never seen a more capable soldier in his entire career. He thought that David was being prevaricating, and perhaps he had been lured to another PMC. David said that this did not happen, so the commander decided that it was a matter of rank. He organizes everything, but despite how great David is, he won't be promoted to captain right away. He said that was not the issue. In this operation, he killed 36 people. At night, they entered one settlement and destroyed every single one of them. And then they just came back, ate ramen and went to bed. It's hardly normal to kill people in droves and then eat them as if nothing happened. There's no need to take everything so seriously. For the sake of their beliefs, they destroy cities, poison people with gas, hijack planes, and they are not ashamed to put explosives on their own children. David knows how many corpses they would have left behind if it weren't for him. He also left a bunch of corpses for the sake of his beliefs, so he is no better. This is war. Yesterday was a battle, not a massacre. And David is a soldier, not a murderer. He's just tired. Let him take a day off and unwind, have a drink. But David wanted to stop. He was sure of it. They really deserve to leave this hell. For security reasons, the commander's hands are officially tied, but he will try to find a way to compensate David for his services, which he said he was not interested in. There is simply no need to advertise his past. He wants to live in peace. He is incorrigible. The commander will still keep an eye on him, and if he wants to thank him, then so be it. He doesn't care about the boy's opinion. He can do whatever he wants, but it's not worth it. The commander asked where David wanted to go. Until now he has only killed. Now he will save. He must somehow atone for his sins. And he saved. Here he managed to save people from the bus. David smiles. He returned to what he was running from. Apparently it was fate. They only have one car at their disposal. Van and Sayaka will go in the second one, while Kevin and Susumu would be better off walking. The transformer station is on the other side of the monster cluster. Everything will be fine. But the noise of a car will attract their attention. If they are careful, then it is much safer to walk. Susumu starts to worry. Sayaka will do her duty to the best of her ability. She is doing it very well now. They will leave as soon as Kevin and Susumu get as far away as possible. There is no need to attract the attention of the creatures to them once again. Kevin asks Susumu if he is scared. To be honest, not much. But he is very brave. Courage is not the absence of fear, but overcoming it and continuing to move forward no matter what. This is a manifestation of courage. Possessing this quality, Susumu can save himself, Kevin, and the others. Van will park in front of the entrance, and Sayaka will drop the speaker and go out. She will have 5 minutes to relieve Dan. Here they will meet. Dan is sleeping when the music starts playing. He gets up. This is Sayaka, the vice captain. She asks to open the door. She needs to wait 3 minutes. No need. They dealt with the monsters, and she just got out of the car. It's probably possible to open it if anything happens. Dan will somehow manage with one woman. He opens the door. Van appears. Sayaka did say that she came alone, but if she hadn't lied, Dan probably wouldn't have opened the door. Van tells him to get ready. He goes with him. They are castling. The captain gave Dan clear orders to sit here and stay in touch. Now, due to her illness, Sayaka will take care of this. Dan doesn't want to go anywhere. He's fine here. And now, the last Chinese warning, As soon as the music ends, the monsters will come for them. One way or another, Dan will go, and it's easier to deal with him than with monsters. But we can wait here. Help will arrive soon. There's no point in taking such risks. There are many reasons for this. Van will tell you on the way. Let Dan think faster, whether he will go on foot or drag him by the scruff of the neck. He will drive the car. Dan says he has never driven in such weather. There is no difference. He is an absolute egoist. He abandoned Malin in danger and didn't even help his teammates. Maybe shoot him like a dog and tell Kevin he's infected. Kevin and Susumu discover penguins fighting among themselves. Just like them, the healthy fight against the infected. It's not even a question of who will win. The penguins have no weapons and no David to turn the tide. The number of infected is growing. We need to leave before they are noticed. They crawl towards the transformer station. Here an infected penguin appears. He shouldn't notice them. It's dark here and visibility is poor. It looks like he's just hanging around here, but he's getting closer. Susumu doesn't know what to do. He decides to shoot. Kevin yells at him not to shoot, but it's too late. The sound of the gunshot attracts a whole crowd of penguins. We need to run. They run to the transformer station. Susumu opens the door. They manage to escape. No more shooting without orders, ever. They approach the room where the transformer is located. It is locked from the inside. This means that there is someone there. It must be people. The infected ones wouldn't have enough brains. It seems like that. But the lack of intelligence doesn't rule out an accident. They won't know who's there until they check. Kevin tells Susumu to step aside. They enter the room. Until they find out who is there, we must remain silent. They are walking down the corridor. Something can be heard behind one of the doors. Susumu reaches for the door handle. He opens the door. Those inside tell Kevin not to shoot. The first aid kit should be ready when it is time to leave the building. Nozomi hears a sound. This is Malin. She is in pain. She speaks Chinese. Malin opens her eyes. Nozomi asks her to speak English. Malin asks why she is here. Nozomi didn't understand what she said. Malin asks to bring her tablet. She needs to watch the show. Van won't break his word to Kevin. He trusted him. And besides, it's not in their position to throw people away. Van decided to have a frank talk with Dan. Then the medical unit got in touch. Nozomi has good news. Malin has regained consciousness. She will tell you the details on the spot. Chinese Barbie came to her senses. She'll tell that big guy everything, then Dan won't survive. We can't take Van to the base. At least not now. We need to come up with something. Dan stops the car. She stopped herself. He did nothing. It looks like the wheel hit something. Dan will go and check. It's no wonder the car doesn't move. Dan pretends the wheel won't budge. Van leaves, leaving the radio in the car. It worked. He bought it. Dan climbs back into the car. What a rat. He's leaving. Van wants to shoot him, but you need to save your ammo. A flock of penguins is approaching. Van will definitely survive. He remembers the walkie-talkie, but she stayed in the car. Dan is a talented freak. He managed to lull Van's vigilance. While there is an opportunity, he will shoot back. The shots will serve as a signal that he is still alive, of course, if someone hears them. In the transformer room, Kevin found 2 members of the expedition. Alan is in the research group and today is supposed to be his day off, and Kaidi is a medic, so it's unclear why she's here. She will explain everything. Kevin tells Alan to stay put. This is too much. It is unclear where they got the guns from. Alan hopes that they are not real. The gun is real, and Susumu has no desire to use it on his colleagues. Kevin asks how the 2 of them ended up in the transformer room, and if they had any contact with the infected. In short, they meet. They are engaged, and have been for a long time. Korean-Japanese relations leave much to be desired, and somehow the opportunity to announce the engagement never came up. There aren't many places on the base where you can hide from prying eyes. They came here on a date, then heard the announcement and hurried to the evacuation building. But there was already chaos outside, so they came back here, locked themselves in, and didn't come out until Kevin and Susumu found them. Susumu can't believe that Alan and Kaide were hugging in the basement while the others were turning into monsters and dying. There's no need to get worked up. They couldn't have foreseen this. Kevin doesn't care about their personal lives. But the situation now is such that they need to join forces. They too will fight for the safety of humanity. Kevin will tell you the details later. Let them get ready. We need to turn off the electricity. We need to shut down everything except the first floor of the headquarters. Done. Now let Susumu contact headquarters and report the situation. The base is de-energized except for the first floor of the headquarters. And 2 more team members, Alan Wu and Kaidi Watanabe, have been found to be uninfected. Kaide is an excellent nurse. She will be of great help. Nozomi has great news. Malin has regained consciousness. Overall, she feels well. More details upon her return. Nozomi asks how much Malin remembers. She was watching a talk show in the room. Then Van came in. He was covered in blood. Malin doesn't know why he was covered in blood, or why she's here. She should prepare herself for what Nozomi was about to say. Under normal circumstances, she would have preferred to remain silent. There is a risk that shock will worsen Malin's condition, but she needs to understand what is happening to save herself. It doesn't matter what she hears. Most of their colleagues turned into monsters, and that's not all. Meanwhile, Dan reached the base. He entered the medical center. Things are bad. This girl survived. Malin has mild amnesia. When a person experiences severe stress, a psychological defense mechanism is triggered that partially or completely erases memories of the shock experienced. Malin remembers almost nothing about what happened or their situation. She is too helpless. What a stroke of luck, Dan says. He's very sorry. Nozomi told Malin about the situation in general terms. Malin heard that Dan was riding with Wang. She asks where he is. Dan says he was attacked by the infected. Malin doesn't believe him. The monsters couldn't defeat Van. Nozomi asks Malin to calm down. She can't be nervous now. They had to stop because something got into the wheel. They got out to take a look, and then an infected jumped out and attacked Van. When he was bitten, he told Dan not to worry about him and to protect Malin. He dealt with the wheel and sent Dan to headquarters. He saved him. If it weren't for Van, the same thing would have happened to him. Nozomi asks who it was. It all happened so quickly that Dan didn't have time to see it, and his face was disfigured. And besides, the penguins were approaching. Nozomi asks if Dan saw the infected bite Van. He saw it, but he doesn't know if he got infected, since he's wearing such a thick jacket. That is, Dan was not convinced of the infection, abandoned him and ran away. He says that he could not do anything. There's no need to look at him like that. There was no point in abandoning Van out of boredom. Nozomi didn't say that, but it sounds strange. The very fact that Wang would risk his life for someone other than Malin is suspicious. Dan also had a hard time getting here, and in the end he is accused. He seems really nervous. He's clearly hiding something. Van is not just a security guard who works for money. He is practically a member of the family. It's Malin's own fault. She should have died and there wouldn't have been any problems. If Dan is not sure whether Van is dead or not, it means he will come back. He is very strong. He couldn't have died so stupidly. She's sure he'll come back. Dan says he hopes so too. Van fights off a flock of penguins. He must return to Malin. 15 years ago, he tried to break into her house and was caught. You shouldn't get too close to him. Even though he doesn't look strong, he defeated 2 guards, and each of them is a kung fu master. He is very capable for his age. Mailing's father asked him what he wanted to steal. Perhaps company documents or jewelry. Van hesitated to answer. He was asked a question. He must answer. He was very hungry. It seemed to him that there was a lot of food here. It can't be that he chose this house just because of the food. It's a mansion protected by various security systems. Van doesn't know what a security system is. He's really hungry, and decided that in such a big house there must be very rich people living there, and it would be okay for him to steal a little. If he were a spy or a member of another organization, he would have come up with a more decent lie. The reason he gave was too absurd, which made Mailing's father believe him. He realized that Van was not from around here and asked where he was from. His hometown is Zuoquan, Shanxi province. He is just an ignorant country bumpkin. Mailing's father asked him what he was doing in Beijing. Not long ago, his parents died of illness. He has no other relatives. He came to Beijing to earn money, but could not find a job, and the remaining money was stolen from him. And so he decided to steal food from the Green family. He is a thief who knows nothing about this world. Well then, Father Malin will be kind to him. He told the guards to kill him. The public security service will not sue over a homeless, penniless man. Van begged to spare him. Although he is just a country bumpkin who doesn't understand anything, he dared to break into Mailing's father's house, and even planned to commit theft. If he has no family, no hope, no purpose in life, then it is better to die. Perhaps in the next life he will be reborn into a decent family, so Van should be grateful to him. Then Malin came up. She handed Van the food. He did say he was hungry. Let him eat. This will be his last meal. Malin gave him this food. He must eat it. It is not something he can refuse. He's close to death, and yet it tastes good. Malin saw that Wang was crying. She said she wanted to play with him. No, he's dirty. But dirty things can be washed, and they will become clean again, Wang cries. Malin will protect him, and he will play with her. If she can't do this, then she won't play with Dad anymore. He's bad. Malin is too stubborn. It's better to save Wang's life first. Someone like him can be killed at any moment. Then they will be responsible for him. They need to check his background and teach him kung fu. The fact that he was able to defeat 2 guards with his bare hands shows that he has a talent for it. Today he was supposed to die, but Malin saved him. And not only him, but also the opportunity to change his life. He must remember this until his death. Malin asked if she could play with him. After that day, Van's life no longer belonged to him. Until Malin gives him permission, he can't die. They have completed their task, but they need to return to headquarters. And as soon as they open the door, the monsters will immediately pounce on them. They have a radio, they can call for help. This is exactly why they got into trouble last time. Everything worked out then, but this time they might not be so lucky. This is the result of their own mistake. They must take care of it themselves. We need to take everything that can be used as a weapon. When the door opens, Kevin and Susumu, who has a gun, will break through the line of infected, then line up in a square and quickly move towards the headquarters. Penguins outnumber them, but their fighting skills are significantly inferior to those of humans. And this time they have 2 guns, so everything should be fine. Susumu made a serious mistake, so he will take the initiative into his own hands. It wasn't his mistake, but theirs. As long as Kevin is alive, he will lead them. That's an order. There's no need to focus on killing all the infected, just keeping them contained. Kevin will shoot first. Then when he reloads his weapon, it's Susumu's turn. At Kevin's command, Alan opens the door. Kevin and Susumu start shooting. It's time to head to the warehouse. They have been through this many times. If they don't let fear get the better of them, no one will get hurt, and they will get through it easily. Penguin grabs Kaidi's weapon. He pounces on her. Alan wants to help. Let her do it herself. He must maintain his position. But Alan still pushes the penguin away from Kaide. Kevin tells us to hold position. The skuas are approaching and Kevin is in danger. Susumu fired but missed. He rushed towards Kevin. Then the skua flew at him. Kevin fought back. He asked Susumu if he was okay. He is not okay. Don't try to be so cool on your own. Susumu is a man too. Let Kevin tell everyone who saved him. Alan is Korean and probably knows how to shoot. Let him use this. Susumu will take 1 bullet and give the rest to him. He's not going to be a slave to space monsters. He, Susumu Isobe, will die a human being. He pulls the trigger. Alan and Kaidi are stunned. It's not over. Kevin tells Alan to quickly grab the gun. Kaidi thinks that they can't leave Susumu here. She's talking nonsense, let her take him with her if she can. Skuas are much more dangerous than penguins, so we need to try to destroy them first. If they don't want Susumu's death to be in vain, they must return to headquarters alive. However, having lost it, it is impossible to immediately reach headquarters. We need to get into that room for a while. Let them continue in the same spirit until they get there. Kaidi is in danger again. This time it is not possible to save her. Once she's bitten, there's no way to save her. They have to move on. Alan breaks free. He's here. Everything's okay now. Kaidi can't go with them. Alan knows this, but asks to at least let him take care of her. They reach the premises. Kaidi's temperature rises. Alan has to go. If he and Kevin stay here, they will be in danger. Alan is not going anywhere. It seems like the complete transformation happens in 3 minutes. It's different for everyone, but on average, that's it. Kevin is sorry to say this, but Alan has to let her go. Alan wants to ask Kevin for a favor. He knows that everyone looks up to him. Even if the situation were different, Alan would still ask for it. He wants Kevin to be a witness. They don't have time, they need to hurry. Alan has gone crazy. He insists. They will do it quickly. Kevin asks if the groom, Alan Wu, takes the bride, Kaide Watanabe, as his lawfully wedded wife, to cherish and love through good times and bad, until death do them part. Alan answers in the affirmative. Kevin asks Kaide the same question, and she asks him to stop. If she doesn't love Alan, she can say no. Kaide says yes. Kevin Lee, the best man of the ceremony, solemnly pronounces them husband and wife. Now let Alan go and be happy. They must hold out until the end and kill them all. Alan is very sorry. He loves Kaide and will soon follow her. Right now, he has no desire to live a long and happy life, but he is going to kill as many monsters as he can. But now he is definitely not in that state. He can lose his mind and rush straight into a crowd of monsters. For now, they need to take a breath and calm down. That's the order. You need to take a 5-minute break and stay calm. If Alan goes there in this state, he won't last even 3 minutes. It's unlikely that he wants such revenge. Kevin swears on his name that soon he will have a chance to destroy them all and save the world. Of course, he will also survive, because this is what Kaide wanted. Alan understands. He will follow Kevin's instructions. He reports that their return will be delayed due to problems that have arisen. They will take care of this themselves. They will risk the lives of those who are at headquarters at a more important moment. The bombs are ready. David said he needed to go to the bathroom, and they let him go alone. Maybe there are still infected left that they haven't dealt with. Then there will be one less, and it's not just anyone, but David. Here comes Dan. He's trying to explain himself. Ben pounces on him. He had been waiting for this moment so much. Dan asks to listen to him. But Ben isn't going to listen to anything because of Dan. They almost died. Nozomi thinks Ben needs to be stopped. Bill says what needed to be settled has already been settled. Honestly, it's worth it. They are terrible. Dan will be right here. Someone grabs his hand. This is David. He won't let Dan be killed. Ben won't let this go. The time for games is over. Non-combat losses are unacceptable. Ben asks what David would do if he hit Dan again. David says he can try if he's interested. David is the best bodyguard. Dan heard he did a great job today. David asks where the captain is. He's coming back. There were some complications. The fact that Van was bitten is not 100% accurate information. No one saw him being bitten. If he hasn't been bitten, he will definitely come back. It would be good if he came back. He will surely be able to defend himself. There is no longer any point in counting how many monsters he killed. He used up all his bullets, but that doesn't matter. 5 minutes have already passed. It's time to go. The penguins rush straight towards them. No more stops. They return straight to headquarters. At first glance, you can see the tracks of dozens or even hundreds of penguins here. They were here relatively recently, because the tracks have not yet disappeared, despite the fact that it was snowing. We need to get back to headquarters as soon as possible. Dan learns of a plan to blow up the monsters. Although the infected have a strong positive phototaxis, that is, a reaction to light, it will be difficult to destroy them all in one explosion. There are too many of them. Even after the explosion, they need to comb the area within at least a 1-kilometer radius to find and destroy any remaining infected. And ultimately, they need to collect all their bodies and burn them. But they are just ordinary researchers and technicians, and not fighters for justice like David. Dan worked in the defense industry, but never held a weapon in his hands. This makes me want to hit him again. Bill doesn't want to do it either, but they have no choice since they are the only people here. The Americans will arrive soon with a bunch of weapons initially. The Earth was under the protection of the United States. It will take them time to get here. If even one penguin or skua goes out to sea, the Earth will be plunged into chaos. The only thing Dan can do now is to keep quiet and try to get the task in a closed room. He says he didn't have the slightest idea. Just like Conscience, Dan had to deal with a Chinese man who was much stronger than Ben, so he couldn't do anything to him. Judging by their faces, Nozomi can tell they had a fight. Ben is sorry. He couldn't control his emotions. They cut off the electricity, cutting off power to several important places. The bombs are already ready. Perhaps we should wait for the captain to return. He said he would be back soon. But for some reason Nozomi feels like this is wrong. Then Kevin and Alan show up. Kevin calls an emergency meeting. They said that Kaidi was with them, but she died. They will explain the details later. Now they have a state of emergency. On their way there, they saw tracks of penguins heading south. This is exactly what they were worried about. If they drive south for about 15 minutes, there will be a sea. They must get rid of the penguins before they reach the sea. They go towards the light. You can make them come back with a lantern on the roof of the storage room. But they don't have much time to prepare. David agrees that they need a plan, but few can commit to it. They barely have enough people to carry out the operation to blow up the gas storage facility. Kevin won't hide anything. This plan requires them to risk their lives. Volunteers needed. Bill and Terry are called. James will come too. He can't do nothing and sleep only because of his leg. If he takes a painkiller, he will be able to drive a car, although he can't run. But he can sit behind the wheel and shoot from a fixed position. Besides, he is a biologist and knows more about penguins than anyone else. Given the circumstances, Kevin asks him for help. If they don't want their efforts to be in vain, they must protect the coast. James thought he wouldn't have to use his left leg, but it turned out to be a manual. He hadn't driven since he arrived here. But Bill and Terry need to be able to escape from the car at any moment, so James will be driving. All the outside lights are off. He can't even turn on the headlights. If they didn't have a location locating device, that would be a big problem. Van is still fighting monsters. Either he was hallucinating or he heard the sound of a car passing by. But in this situation, hoping for a lucky break will only be a distraction. Focusing only on the fight, he lost his sense of direction. He doesn't know where he is or where he should go. If Van doesn't return, we'll have to continue the demolition operation ourselves. They have no choice. They must complete their task. Dan should have stayed in the evacuation building at all costs. The plan is very simple. Everyone except David will go to the gas storage facility, plant the explosives, set the timer and open the gas valve. Then you need to light a large fire on the roof to attract the infected, and leave from there. David will patrol the area and lead the infected around to get their attention, and when the time is right, he will lead them to the gas storage facility. Kevin will do it instead of David. He has been exposed to too much risk during this time. The same can be said about Kevin. He needs to lead others. They both better do what they are good at. First, they all need to get to the garage. The coastal blockade team took their only car. They don't have to go all together. David will get to the garage himself and return from there by car. Alan thinks he still doesn't understand the situation. Ben asks him to keep quiet. There is something Alan didn't see. This guy is not reckless and he is not weak. But even if this is the case, it is better to act as a group to speed up the process. For this, David will do everything himself. If he does not need to protect anyone, he can move much faster. Of course, he won't go on foot. He will go skiing. They make no noise and can move faster than all infected except skuas. But if David accidentally falls, he's finished. He learned tactical skiing in the army. He won't fall. The most important thing is to avoid the skuas. Kevin feels awkward putting all this on one person. It's just his job. He'll be back soon. David rushes past the penguins. The skuas are approaching. David reached the garage. There he discovered an infected person. He was wounded and David finished him off. No matter how much Alan thinks, David could die in vain alone. However, he is already on his way. The fact that he was here and now could be taken as a sign that God had not abandoned their world. If David is so wonderful, he can handle everything himself. He took all he could. To drive the infected, it is better to use small and fast vehicles. If David drives at a speed of 30 or 40 kilometers per hour, they will pursue him. Kevin asked for a cigarette, but he thought he didn't smoke. He quit smoking for health reasons, but now is the perfect time to smoke. Given their situation, there is no guarantee that Kevin will live a long life. It's hard to believe that just a few hours ago it was a completely ordinary day, if you think about it. It's amazing that he's still alive. But the end of this adventure is already near. If they blow up the gas storage facility, seal off the coastline, and eliminate all the infected, it remains to be seen whether it can be called a success. It would have been a success if nothing had happened to any of them. They had already lost too many comrades. Kevin could have taken better care of Kim, handled the situation more skillfully, or at least organized group training sessions. He is the best commander David has ever worked with, and no one in the 7 billion people in the world could handle the situation as well as he can. No matter how much David tried to be magnanimous, Kevin lost his right to the captaincy when Susumu died in his place. The leader must protect everyone, but he saved his own life by sacrificing his comrades. No matter what Kevin thinks of himself, he is trusted more than anyone else here. David is leaving. There are certain places where penguins tend to congregate, and if they still have instincts, their behavior can be predicted. There are a whole bunch of them there. It's hard to tell if they're infected, but if you suspect they are, it's best to deal with them. James stops the car. Bill and Terry rush to destroy the penguins. They did it. It was much easier than they thought. But there is something they don't know yet. The seals are already infected. Looking out to sea, James realizes they are in trouble. There are leopard seals on the shore. They smelled the blood of penguins. They are trying to drive them away with shots, but it doesn't help. They must be very hungry, and the animals here are not afraid of people because they are not hunted here. They don't have enough ammunition to destroy them all, and it's unknown when new infected penguins will appear. There was blood left on the snow. They have to strike first. There's some gas left in the car. We need to set it on fire. Even if they are not afraid of people, they are afraid of fire. Bill and Terry pour gasoline on the penguin corpses. They set it on fire. You have to shoot the infected, then burn them, and no one will dare come near. However, it is snowing. He can put out the fire. As expected, the infected do not feel tired. David discovers traces. Considering how heavily it's snowing, they were left relatively recently. Van is still fighting off the monsters. He wasn't imagining things. Someone was really coming here. This is David. They will leave the words for later. First, they need to sort out this mess. David explained why he lures the infected. Van would like him to give him a ride to headquarters. It's not Malin's fault. He's too exhausted. He would have died if it weren't for David. He agrees to take him to headquarters. Malin is worried about him. David has a radio with him so he can report. He will inform you personally. If he uses the walkie-talkie, Dan will escape. Kevin shows where they will plant the bombs. Dan tries to come up with a plausible reason not to go. Kevin asks if he was listening carefully. Dan says he listened. Then Kevin will continue. When the bombs are planted, we need to set fire to the roof and return to the car. They should be back within 2 minutes. Nozomi understands that the bomb squad is short-staffed. But if she leaves, the patient recovering from surgery will be left alone. Nozomi can stay. Everyone knows that she worked hard in every dangerous situation without running away from the scene. She would like to have 2 bodies. Malin says Nozomi can go. She doesn't want to keep her close to her. Even if something happens to Malin, she won't blame her. Nozomi asks to give her 30 seconds. This is a painkiller. If it hurts, you need to press the button. David can't stop, but Van will certainly be able to leave. He jumps off. The gas storage facility is surrounded by infected people. There are people among them. It turns out they are still there, and perhaps they are smarter than they seem. They could have realized their plan and gathered in front of the gas storage facility to prevent them from getting there. From what they saw, the probability was extremely low. But there had to be a reason for such a large number. This could be due to the light, since the gas storage facility handles flammable substances. All systems, including the internal lighting, are running constantly. Or it could be due to intense heat coming from the building. Penguins usually do this because they gather near heat sources, and the monsters that hunt them also gather here. Now we need to think about how to break through to the building. They have 2 Bluetooth speakers left. That's not enough. If David lures monsters, You can ask him to lead them away. He can't handle that amount. There must be another option. It doesn't just affect them. It could change the fate of the entire planet. We need to contact David. They're faced with a large number of infected. They'll have to take them away. If it was only Kevin's life at stake, he wouldn't do it. But given the importance of the mission, he'll happily become a piece of trash. Asura approaches Dan. He shoots. There is a flock of penguins nearby. Malin was a little scared because she was alone and in the dark, so she should have asked for sleeping pills. But if she falls asleep, she will be completely defenseless. Then she hears footsteps. They are approaching. Malin hides under the blanket. Van's voice reaches her. She knew he was alive. She can only lie down, so she stayed here alone. Dan will be happy when he finds out that Van is alive. He sacrificed himself to save him. This is wrong. Dan abandoned Malin to save himself. Wang would never sacrifice himself for him. Malin doesn't remember anything. Then Van will tell her what really happened and what Dan is like. He even honked his horn to attract the infected. If it weren't for David, Van wouldn't have survived. Malin thinks that Kevin should be told about this. But he is an overly rational person and will not punish Dan on the spot. Besides, they are short of people. This may influence his decision. Van is going to kill him before he can do anything, so Dan must not know he is alive. Malin asks if Wang can forgive him. She can't help but hate Dan, but she feels it's wrong to kill someone because you're angry. They are only alive by luck. If left as is, they could put everyone in danger. Malin orders Wang not to kill Dan. Van will do as she wants. Everyone is working hard to prevent the spread of the infection. Malin wants Wang to help others, but if he leaves, she will be left alone. This is necessary. Wang must represent the Malin family to save the world and enhance its prestige. Of course, she will be scared, but she is ready to take on a mission that is meant only for her. Let him go to the coast. There are not enough people there, and there is no one as strong as Van or David. Van is leaving. The fire is dying down, but the leopard seals seem to be increasing in number. James notices the penguins. Judging by their eyes, they are infected. Bill and Terry shoot them. Even if they think they have greatly reduced their numbers, it is quite natural that there are many more of them. We need to hurry. They have used up all the gas and can only get him out of the car. But there is no time for that. As soon as the fire goes out, the leopard seals will immediately attack the penguins. The penguins are going crazy. They have to run away. Now is not the time to save ammo. The seals are not infected yet, but if left alive, they will eat the penguins' corpses, and both will have to be destroyed. Bill and Terry shoot leopards. They're doing better than expected, but they'll soon run out of ammo. Here, a Molotov cocktail flies at the penguins. Van abandoned him. Dan is worried that something has gone wrong. He says this because he is worried too. I don't really believe it. If Ben continues to treat Dan like this, Dan won't be able to stand it anymore. Here comes David. An infected person approaches him. David attacks him. The rest arrive at the gas storage facility. There are traces of people and penguins nearby. Ben usually doesn't lock the gas storage room because no one comes in there. They're going to have to pay for it right now. It's time to remember the times when they played hide and seek. It's almost the same thing, only if they get caught, they won't come back. Nozomi will go with Ben. Dan will go with Alan. After planting the bombs, they must report it by radio. Kevin will go alone. When encountering infected people, firearms should not be used. But if this is unavoidable, shoot away from the gas pipes. Alan asks why Dan is hated so much. There was a big misunderstanding and he regrets it a little. To prevent the spread of infection, he did not immediately open the door to the emergency evacuation building. When this is all over, he should apologize. A shadow appears on the wall. Whatever it is, they will survive. Nozomi and Ben discover penguins. The doctor will plant the bomb and Ben will buy time by fighting them. Kevin finds an infected person. He attacks him. Another one rushes at him from behind. Kevin manages to fight him off too. Perhaps these are the ones who escaped outside the base before receiving instructions. It's all Kevin's fault. Great, Bill is already sick of penguins. The leopards are leaving. Luckily, Van was not late. Bill and Terry start hugging him. Van tells them to stop. They thought he was dead. If it weren't for David, Van would have really died. David again. It feels like the twins have secretly gone to Antarctica. Bill isn't sure he can ask about this, but he heard that Van was helping Dan. They will talk about this later. It's enough to shoot each one once, but there are too many gas pipes in the walls. They are everywhere. The only safe place is the floor. Kevin tackles the monster to the floor and sticks the gun into its mouth. He shoots. Here comes another one. He pounces on Kevin. Tom manages to throw it off himself. He shoots. Other infected may come running towards the sound, so we need to hurry. Here Kevin is informed that the first bomb has been planted. You need to plant the explosives and return to the car within 15 minutes. Dan and Alan didn't answer. Kevin had heard the scream earlier. They fight off the penguins. This is for Kaida. Penguins usually gather in dozens or hundreds, but this time they were lucky. Alan reports that there was a minor skirmish, but everything is fine now. We need to get out of here. The keys are in the car so that anyone can get behind the wheel. Without a car, no one will survive. In short, there is no choice. First, Dan will drive to a quiet place, stay there for a while, and after the explosion, he will move to the headquarters. Then the rescuers will arrive. The problem is with the radio. If they are contacted and no one answers, it may raise suspicions. You need to break it and take the pieces with you, and then say that it broke during the fight with the monsters. Alan and Katie were going to get married. Lately, they couldn't meet openly because of the atmosphere at the base. When Kaide died, Alan was so shocked that his fear of monsters disappeared in an instant. The best revenge for Kaide is to hold tight to your heart. Fight and win according to the captain's plan. Alan will probably miss Kaide very much. That's true, he already misses her. Even if he survives, he doesn't know how to live on. Then he can meet her right now. Dan hits Alan with a gun. Then he hits again. Now he's breaking the radio. Alan is still breathing. He will either get bitten by penguins or get caught in the explosion. At least it won't be Dan who kills him. In this situation, taking care of yourself first is an instinct. Now you just need to get back to the car. There are penguins in front of the door. Then Dan will go the other way. But penguins are waiting for him there too. They are on both sides. You just need to shoot them. The gas pipe should be able to withstand a few hits. However, the gun does not fire. Dan rolls over gas cylinders. In any case, you just need to get to the door. The penguins pecked out Alan's eyes. He stood up and first remembered Kaide, then about Dan. The second bomb has been planted. Now you just need to get up and light the fire, and Kevin's mission will be complete. The wind increased in strength. An infected Skua appears. He flies down like a bullet. Kevin shoots him. We need to finish quickly and leave. Looks like they've dealt with all the penguins around here, all thanks to Van. It's too early to relax. Leopards are hungry, so they won't give up so easily. Even if the host's body is burned, an alien life form can survive by eating it. A predator can become infected, and when information is scarce, one has to assume the worst. As planned, all infected must be destroyed and burned. It would be better to fill them with concrete, or melt them in a furnace to such an extent that not even a trace remains. But this is impossible, so we must exercise extreme caution, and the most important thing is that no one should be allowed into the sea. They won't be able to cover the entire area in one go, and the number of vehicles is limited, but they have no choice. You can go to the shore and stand guard. In the trunk there is an emergency rubber boat and a diving suit. Bill opens the trunk. The boat can be used to patrol the area, and if infected are detected entering the sea, they must be destroyed. However, all bodies must be removed. If someone eats an infected one, their efforts will be in vain. Terry can't believe he has to dive in this weather. The wetsuits provide protection from the cold, so it should be bearable. Bill and Terry will take the boat. James has an injured leg, and Van fights better than the two of them put together. And firebombs won't have much effect at sea. Dan is almost out. He's about to escape. But then the penguins appear again. How Dan wished all this would go away. He's hiding behind the pipes. But Alan finds him there. Dan wants to shoot, but the gun doesn't work again. He thinks that Alan is still human, and says that he didn't do it on purpose. It was a mistake. Here Dan realizes that Alan is infected, and he can't see anything because his eyes are eaten. We need to wait until he leaves. Bill and Terry don't yet know that the seals are infected. They are just hungry. You can use bait and lure them away. Terry has some food left in his backpack and there is fish in it. He needs to hang it all on the boat. But the appearance is greatly altered, and since it is fried in oil, the smell may seem unfamiliar. If Bill had been starving for a long time, he would hardly be picky about food. It's worth at least trying. Bill asks Van to bring the backpack. They went out to sea with Terry. The seals begin to catch the food that is thrown to them. They are really very hungry. Bill hopes they're not targeting them. This is a motorboat. If you use full speed, they won't catch up with them. And they also have weapons. Even if they are attacked by infected seals, a couple of shots will be enough. Kevin announces that he is going to set the roof on fire. Alan and Kim didn't answer. He hopes they are busy and turned off the radio. Kevin sets the roof on fire. It looks like everything worked out as expected for him. There are 8 minutes left. It looks like the operation was a success. Alan still can't leave Dan. Now that he is dead, he should not help those who still have hope. Dan throws the gun down so the sound will attract Alan's attention. This is his chance. Here he again stumbles upon penguins. He twisted his ankle and can't run anymore. Alan is approaching. Dan sees another door. Whatever it is, he needs to go there. He manages to reach the door, but it doesn't open. Dan just wanted to be saved. He is under attack. The monsters rush towards the gas storage facility, attracted by the light from the fire. There are 7 minutes left. If you don't make noise, the car won't be attacked. The mission to attract the infected is complete. There are many of them. They are concentrated on the light from the fire, but you still need to be careful. The skuas are approaching. There is no time for them. We need to go back. Kevin runs into the gas storage facility. Nozomi and Ben planted the bombs without incident. So far, everything is going well. Just a little bit more, and they will meet David. Here, Kevin sees a gun lying on the floor. Even the fuse is not removed. There is no doubt that this gun belongs to Alan or Dan. Something must have happened to them. There were about 6 minutes and 30 seconds left before the explosion. From now on, Nozomi and Ben will go alone. Kevin must check if the explosives are set correctly, and if not, finish the job. We also need to check if Alan and Dan are alive, and if so, save them. Nozomi and Ben will help. He might not have enough time. If something goes wrong, they could all die. Even if Kevin doesn't come back in time, there's no need to save him. To fight the infected, they must follow David's instructions, and all other decisions will be made by Sayaka. They can't leave Kevin. This is what a captain should do. 15 seconds have already passed. They must go, that's an order. The time it takes to complete the task and get into the car is 3 minutes. But if Kevin sacrifices himself, he will have an additional 3 minutes. Kevin contacts David. He asks where he left the snowmobile. David says next to the car. The snowmobile's maximum speed is 150 kilometers per hour. A minute will be enough to get to a safe distance, in which case it has 5 minutes. First, we need to get to Alan and Dan's area. The footsteps are a bit loud, but there's no time to think about that now. Nozomi and Ben exit the gas storage facility. The penguins are very close. David comes to the rescue. He throws down the column. The sounds of music attract penguins. Ben and Nozomi run to the car. They lost contact with Alan and Dan, leaving Kevin alone to complete his mission. So that's why he needed a snowmobile. David wants to help Kevin, but Ben tells him not to leave. This is Kevin's order. No one should save him. There is still time. We must trust his abilities. David has received orders and will follow them, but if help is needed, David is always ready. That's why Kevin can't let him come here if something happens to him. David is the only one who can be trusted with everything. There are traces of blood here. At least one is already infected. Completing the mission is more important now. Alan hears the sound of footsteps. One bomb is ready. Kevin hears footsteps. There is only one way to find out who it is, even if it is dangerous. He asks who is here. Alan is approaching. You should try not to use weapons. It is now clear that Alan is infected. The same fate befell Dan. Time is running out. We need to finish. Here, Kevin realizes that Alan has no eyes. He pounces on him and knocks him down. Kevin is sorry he had to go through all this. He congratulates Alan on his marriage. Bill and Terry have swum quite far. They need to finish quickly, because this is not the only place. It might be worth contacting Van. The radio isn't working. They might be out of range. In the worst case, it could be a battery issue. Then they will have to make decisions on their own. Land animals should not be allowed to go near the sea, and sea animals should be taken even further out to sea. This sounds easy, but in reality it is difficult to implement. And there are also those who are in the sky. Infected individuals are easily recognized by their appearance. Skuas are infected not by a bite, but by eating flesh. So it will be difficult to distinguish them from healthy ones. We need to get rid of them as a precaution. The corpses won't drown immediately. They can be retrieved. Terry shoots. Bill did say they wouldn't drown. He wants to get the bird's corpse. Suddenly something pulls her under the water. This is an infected seal. One of them will dive into the water and act as bait. The other will wait for the right moment and shoot. Rock, paper, scissors. Whoever wins shoots. Both get paper. There is one last bomb left. Kevin bumps into a penguin. He throws it aside. There are about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left before the explosion. If Kevin wants to save himself and get on a snowmobile, then about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It is necessary to report the current situation. Then Dan pounces on Kevin. He is the most energetic person Kevin has seen all day. He fell and injured his leg. The only thing he can do is keep Dan at bay, his leg hurting more and more. They must leave the area in a minute. David can't sit back, but there's no point in trying to be cool on his own. If he's going, then Ben is too. A snowmobile is a 2-seater, so it's not a problem that can be solved by crowding. Then Ben will go and take the survivors and let them leave. David asks him to come closer. He wants to tell him something. When Ben approaches, David hits him. It seems like my hand slipped. There is one last column left. Nozomi throws her away. Even if she tries to stop David, he won't listen. Nozomi won't thank or regret. Let him go and earn his salary. David says thank you. It's strange that he said that. Bill gets a stone. Now he's going to dive. It was fun. You can't say things like that in dangerous situations. He will definitely die. Bill turns on the light to attract animals. An infected seal appears from behind. He floats past. We need to get up faster. The monster is approaching again. He almost grabbed Bill by the leg. He emerges from the water. Then a monster appears. Terry shoots him. We need a rope. Bill will tie him up so we can pull him out. A special engine for polar work must withstand the entire seal. Bill dives again. The seal probably fell about 4 or 5 meters, and the bottom is still not visible. Bill finds a dead seal. You can become infected by drinking the blood of an infected person. There are other organisms in the sea, so it's all over. But blood is diluted several times when mixed with water, and organisms like plankton will have a hard time getting infected from what Bill saw. They only prey on relatively large hosts. A monster appears behind Bill. Even if Kevin manages to defeat Dan, he won't have enough time to escape. So this is how it will all end. Kevin sees a penguin flying, then another one. These are the dead penguins that David dealt with. Thanks to Dan's growl, he quickly found them. David attacks. I wonder if zombies can feel fear. Bandaging the seal carcass turned out to be more difficult than Bill thought. Then he realizes that he is surrounded by seals. He only has a knife with him, and he won't be able to defeat them in swimming. He will die here. He has a few seconds left. The only thing he can do is finish the job. He needs 5 more seconds. Something is happening here. The seal was eaten by a killer whale. It seems like the opponent just changed, but the killer whale does not attack. Looks like she just saved Bill. Everything is ready. Bill was almost eaten, but a black one from the Earth Defense Force came and saved him. Terry doesn't need to know what he's talking about. Even if Bill tells the truth, he won't believe it. Dan is not defeated yet. David attacks again. He plunges the blade into Dan's back. He falls to the floor, and gets up again. Finally, David delivers the finishing blow. Now the monster is defeated. It's a pity they don't have much time. Kevin told David never to save him, but he came. Kevin is grateful, but David will have to go back alone. It seems like the leg is broken. Thanks to David, Kevin won't be lonely in his final moments. David must go to headquarters immediately. He tells Kevin to put his tongue back or he might bite it. David hits him. When he wakes up, he will already be in the medical center. The confident firefighter left alone, and they return to base. He's overconfident, but he can do it. Several years have passed, and this feeling is back again. The path is blocked by penguins. When they are alone, there is no need to fight them. Just speed up. But now we need to deal with them as quickly as possible. Penguins attack. David doesn't know how long it will take before the explosion. But nothing will change if he finds out. You just have to run away as quickly as possible. David breaks through the penguins. He dropped Kevin. It's time to admit that today was the most stressful day of his life. David has seen a lot of things, but he has nothing to compare this to. Kevin regains consciousness. 40 seconds until the explosion. This fool will definitely not give up as long as Kevin is alive. They definitely won't get out together. Kevin takes off his glove. He calls out to David. Kevin grabbed the penguin. Enough. Kevin can't stand to see David sacrifice himself. This is the last order from Captain Kevin Lee, head of the Antarctic Research Station, and he asks that it be carried out. He is the best captain in the world. David is also one of the best. Now let him get out of here. He is running. Kevin may be old, exhausted, and wounded, but he is a representative of this planet. He is ready to fight. David got out of the gas storage facility. There is a whole horde of penguins in front of him. David shoots them. There will be an explosion soon. We need to leave. David jumps on the snowmobile. Kevin fights the penguins. At first, he worked on fishing boats to earn a living. Then he decided to leave his mark on every corner of this planet. Surprisingly, his dream came true. It was a wonderful life. 1 second left. It has begun. Here comes the gas. There will be a big explosion soon. David dropped the radio. The captain says they have won. There is an explosion. Van throws Molotov cocktails at penguins. There's 1 cocktail left. They will take care of the rest of the penguins with weapons. Nozomi and Ben have completed their mission. The rest is up to Kevin and David. Here they hear Kevin's announcement of victory. They did it. Mission accomplished. David is still too close to the blast zone. This might be the end. The blast wave throws David off the snowmobile. The infected retreat. Now we need to deal with the remains, by the way. This explosion is in no way inferior to an earthquake. There is no need to worry about an avalanche. There are no hills nearby. The sea must have gone mad. The shore is nearby, just a little bit more. Bill and Terry managed to reach the shore. Everything is fine, but Terry is wet and is about to die of cold. First, you need to load it into the machine. Van will take care of this. Now that the killer whale has appeared, there won't be any seals or other animals for a while. And Bill is worried that the seal's blood has gotten into the sea. The skua's corpses in the boat. It was very difficult to hold them when the waves crashed on them. They can really call themselves the Earth's Defense Forces. James asks to give him a knife. He gets out of the car. Bill and Terry follow. There is no need to load this bird into the car. Its stomach is empty. It has not eaten anything, and there are no injuries on it except for the gunshot wound. This is a common skua, and those that were flying with it in the same flock are also not infected. James believes that the seal is not infected, so the sea will not be contaminated with blood. What Bill and Terry did was a precaution. A rescue team contacts the base. This is Kojikura Sayaka, vice captain. They initially spoke with a man named Dan, but due to communication issues, Sayaka is now in charge of the connection. Rescuers have about an hour left. They must be careful. The situation is extremely dangerous. Asians must really be desperate. They still don't hear it. They may not have heard it, but Captain Andy did. If their fear is real, then the monsters must be real too. The mission participants returned to headquarters. Van is amazing. After everything that happened, he came back alive. If Dan is still alive, Ben will kill him. He would be committing a crime if he killed him. There is no need to ruin your life because of such scum. Ben will beat the crap out of him anyway. Sayaka reports that the rescue team will arrive in about an hour. They've already figured everything out themselves. We should be grateful that rescuers are coming at all. Fan is back. Milan feels sorry that she always makes him do such difficult things. Kevin and David had not yet returned, although James had heard Kevin's message with his own ears. At that time, he was still in the gas storage facility because Alan and Dan did not return. Kevin insisted on rescuing them. It looks like he died. When the explosion was just around the corner, David went to save Kevin. In any case, they have to do something before the rescuers arrive. Most of the monsters died in the explosion, but if even one survived, it could turn into a disaster. Since there are no legitimate commanders now, I would like to transfer responsibility to the most senior. James doesn't think he has the ability to lead, but in this situation, they can't hold a commander election. All the survivors, except Malin, have 10 minutes to check their weapons and equipment, and then begin the mission to search for survivors and eliminate the remaining infected. You need to split into 2 teams. One will go to the warehouse, and the other will search the rest of the area by car. James's leg is not in the best condition, so he will choose the second group. Those who have fighting skills will go to the first. It will be Van, Bill, and Terry. Ben can fight too. He will protect James and Nozomi. Just a few hours ago, Wong insisted on staying with Malin. They became a real team without even realizing it. They have exactly 1 hour. This will be their final test. If they tried to deal with all these monsters one by one, they would definitely not succeed. Some monsters are still alive. They are finished off. The explosion was so powerful that even the sea became raging. The fire is quite far away, but Terry can feel the heat. It's snowing, so the fire will most likely go out on its own. Van found something. This is David's snowmobile. It's broken, but if you look at the dashboard, you can tell it was moving a few seconds before it broke. This means that David managed to get out. It's too early to rejoice at such a distance. He was most likely caught in an explosion. The chances that he survived are too small. But he is not one of those who can die so easily. Van doesn't say this because he wants him dead. It's just the most likely scenario. No matter what happens, David will not die until he wants to. The surviving monster approaches. They are shooting at him. And here comes the fireman. He jumped into a pile of snow to avoid the shockwave and debris. He had to return to headquarters or contact them by radio. David lost his radio during the battle and took a short rest in the snow. He was very tired. He didn't lose consciousness, but simply closed his eyes briefly. It doesn't sound very plausible. The rest became infected and no one got out. Kevin was the last one to get infected. David survived thanks to him. He doesn't seem to be doing well. He needs to go back to headquarters. David says it's just a few scratches. He'll join the mission. Here he falls. He will only be a burden. David just slipped. Bill knows how he feels, but this time it's okay to leave it to them. He shouldn't have to do everything alone. They are a team after all. Then David will take his medicine and come back. Bill will help him. He must go to the doctor. He'll get there on his own, and there's no need to bother the busy doctor. David the firefighter can handle such simple procedures himself. He just doesn't want to bother anyone. If someone takes care of him, there will be fewer people capable of carrying out the mission. He is too stubborn, and he will not die anyway. Some of the infected are still alive. There will be those who see the fire and come here. David wants them to fulfill their mission. They didn't encounter a single infected person, but they need to check again to make sure they haven't missed anyone. Ben thinks he sees another explosion. But it's not an explosion, it's the sun. Finally it rose. The polar night has come to an end. Ben is going to cry. David returned to headquarters. Malin is feeling much better. Let him mind his own business and take care of himself first. David gives himself first aid. The wounds are more serious than desired. If the fragment had gone deeper, it would have affected internal organs. There weren't many injuries sustained from the encounter with the infected. Just a few bruises. It's a miracle that he survived such an explosion. However, he will not be able to move normally for some time. Rescuers are getting in touch again. First, they need to go to the evacuation building to pick up Sayaka, and then they can go to the main building. The main danger has been eliminated, but the situation cannot yet be called completely safe. Rescuers have arrived. Andy doesn't think the situation is that dangerous right now, so he'll leave the Alpha group for now. Rescuers get out of the car. In front of them is a mountain of penguin corpses. Something definitely happened here. Andy knocks on the evacuation building. They will send 75% of their complement to carry out the operation to rescue the survivors. They arrived as soon as they received the call. but not everyone is aware of the situation. The captain wants to know the details. Sayaka told everything she knew. She needs to understand something. The scale is too big. It's not something Andy can take care of on his own. There are too many dead. Soon, they will have to report everything to their superiors, and they will be interrogated. Evidence is needed. It's unlikely that many people would believe them if they showed them a headless body and said it was a zombie. They have an infected person captured alive, as well as the meteorite that started it all. The infected person is in the medical center. No one touched the meteorite, so it should be in Kim's lab. This is his diary, but Sayaka doesn't know the contents because it's all in Korean. This could be important evidence in court. The fire will soon go out. Rescuers arrive at the scene of the explosion. This is the rescue team of the U.S. winter base. They heard a short explanation. Apparently all they have to do is take care of the infected. Rescuers open fire on a pile of penguins. They will restore order. The 3 of them will be taken to the main building. It's good that the rescue team arrived, but Bill has a strange premonition, and so does Terry. They act as if it's just a game. They are together again. The safety of all survivors has been ensured, including the 3 who just arrived. On their way here, rescuers ask the Chilean Air Force for help as soon as the weather permits. A plane will arrive to take the survivors to safety. A battalion of Marines will be on board, as well as equipment for collecting and incinerating the monsters until the plane arrives. The rescuers will diligently carry out their mission. They are incredible. In fact, the only incredible thing here is the survivors. They coped almost perfectly, despite the lack of equipment and people. Something is wrong. A meteorite was found in the laboratory. Andy tells you to lock the door. Sayaka asks what this is for. Andy throws something on the floor. Gas comes from there. No one will be hurt. You just need to take a little nap. It looks like sleeping gas. These are important samples that have survived prolonged contact with infected individuals and must be carefully bound. One of the soldiers approaches David. However, he did not fall asleep. He rushes at the soldier and drags him away. Andy tells us not to shoot. It's like a rat in a trap. He likes it. David put on a gas mask. We need to get out of here. David shoots at the soldiers. He is not a rat. They are the rats here. Andy thought David was almost dead. He orders all units to target the sleepers. Andy knows that David is a marksman, but he won't be able to shoot them all at once if he doesn't surrender. Andy won't be able to guarantee the safety of the hostages. Then their entire team will die. Andy shoots Ben. It could have been a great example, but there is no other way to stop David. He gives up. Andy tells him to drop the weapon. Now let him slowly take off his gas mask and not even think about throwing anything else away. David wants to know what they are up to. They will transport everything to a secret laboratory in New York. The meteorite, the zombies, and the survivors. It's much more dangerous than they think. They are professional enough to fully ensure the safety of 6,000 nuclear bombs for 70 years. That's a completely different story. Andy will regret this. David takes off his gas mask. He's falling. Mission accomplished. The action moves to Virginia, USA. John worked in the management office for 3 years and moved here. Someone who understands nothing can take on anything. It's a bit insulting. John also faced all sorts of difficulties in the management department. But by saying this, he again proved that he is an amateur. He can come here when he has nothing to do. They always have something going on. Hackers can't do anything with paper documents. Now he sees how technologies from 2 different eras work together. Since John is now part of their team, he has the right to see this. But the importance of this information cannot be forgotten. This is a Level B surveillance object report. They track down everyone who deserves it, no matter their nationality, no matter where they come from or what they think. Level C is for those who have committed or are capable of committing terrorist attacks against the people of the United States or its allies. Level B, same thing, but against industrial or military targets, and if they do it to people at ministerial level or above, it's Level A. Finally, the Omega level is achieved by those who are capable of killing the head of state. Since 1947, only 9 people have reached Omega level, 2 of whom died decades ago, and 2 of whom were killed relatively recently, but there should be 5 of them. In reality, there was a war between 2 Omegas. In 5 days, the Imam and Lieutenant General M will meet, and a ceasefire agreement will be signed. But he, of course, does not want peace. The Holy War must continue. It would be nice to become the Commander-in-Chief of the Sacred Army. Wars always bring money. The war will end in 5 days, as planned. David is a government official on a business trip. It's impressive that he got past all the security outside, but he messed with the wrong person. David dodges the shot. He should have gathered more information before attacking them. David blocks the shot. He dodges the shot again. He managed to defeat one. The second one is about to shoot again. David pushes his hand away. He strikes. In the end, he shoots. I had to create a new level for the main character of that incident. Its power surpasses Omega. It is called Shiche level. There is no hidden meaning to this. It's just the name of the god of war.